Hurry, only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-222-3967. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-222-3967 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-222-3967.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Keeping it cloudy going through the afternoon. A couple of snow flurries from time to time, and 35 for the high. Tonight, light snow, windy and cold. An Arctic cold front arriving. 12 for the low. The wind chill -5. Less than an inch accumulation of light snow, but that's enough to slick the roads up. Friday, a mix of clouds and sunshine, windy and cold. 15 on Friday. The wind chill -10. Cold times right through the weekend. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
I know we're all busy. We're working, we're running errands, trying to take care of the kids. It's really easy to put things off. One thing you do not want to put off, though, your annual eye exam. The doctors at Ophthalmology Associates not only gave me the most thorough eye exam I've ever had, but they're also experts in the diagnosis and treatment of all diseases of the eye. Everything from dry eye to macular degeneration and cataracts. Think about this. Your eye health is the window into your overall body health. Doctors Greg Birdie, Ranja Malhotra, Robert Brusati, Andy Royer, and Samuel Berry, they can look at your eyes and even tell in some cases if you have early stage diabetes, heart disease, lung problems, even some forms of cancer. They're called the doctor's doctors because they've treated more than 250 doctors. The best part about this is that most insurance plans cover the cost of your annual eye exam. Set up your appointment today, 314-966-5000. Again, 314-966-5000, or go to youridoc.com.
We enjoyed up until today, very mild winter. In my personal opinion, it's been very nice, very mild. But winter seems like it is here now. I like to let everybody know, if your furnace is broken, call me. You are a preferred customer of mine. Everybody gets great pricing, excellent treatment, knowledgeable techs, and me. No extra charge to call us. You don't have to pay me in advance for me to get out there same day. Call me, Bart Inman, 314-293-2600. That's Bart Inman, 314-293-2600. Two things to remember: the phone number, and if you're tech savvy, which I'm not, it's Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com. Happy New Year.
Staples Print Big Sale means the more you print, the more you save. Get $20 off your print purchase of $100 or more, $50 off your print purchase of $200 or more, and $100 off your print purchase of $300 or more. Ends 2/10/24. See staples.com/print for details. Print more, save more at Staples.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com or call us toll free at 888-367-6512.
The Annie Frey Show YouTube live chat poll of the day is sponsored by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
And welcome in. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Annie Frey. Happy to be with you here, really, on this Thursday, and we're in different parts of the country. It is so cold here in Detroit. I know you guys got hit first in St. Louis, so there's all kinds of things that are going on in people's lives, but at least we have comedy to wake us up. I don't know if you guys saw Shane Gillis did a stand-up recently, and he was talking about what he wanted to happen during the next presidential debates. And essentially, he said, I don't care if Donald Trump's in jail. They should wheel him out Hannibal Lecter style and still let him be part of the debate stage because of how entertaining it is. Have you seen any of Shane Gillis's political humor? I'm curious if you've watched that online.
I get a lot of it via shorts on YouTube. I'll be scrolling through and I'm like, this dude will pop up, and dude, he cracks me up. He's pretty funny. He's got some good, fun political takes.
Yeah, I've seen him. Who was it? It was Louis C.K. was talking about his phenomenon. So essentially, he's like a Midwest guy, and he goes onto these stages of New York. And this is how Louis C.K. categorized him. He said he'll go on the stage and he'll say something like, you know, my dad watches Fox News, and the New York crowd will boo him, boo. And he'll say, you know, your dad watches it too, so shut up. And then they'll all get a laugh and they'll clap him. He'll say in a matter of 10 seconds, they'll go from hating him to loving him in 10 seconds. And normally you don't see that on a stand-up stage, particularly when you're not part of like the New York crowd in front of a New York crowd. And he said he wins him over really quick. And I just think the dude is hilarious. And he definitely is not PC at all in any of his comedy. It reminds me of you and your buddies in the 90s before everything got so offensive and people got upset about everything. And you're like, no, this is just, you know, when there were no cameras around, and once something was said, it was over and it was gone forever. And you don't have to worry about the repercussions of it coming up 20 years from now for you making a joke, you know, one of those deals. Can I play part of this for you? I'll do this from my side. Here's what Shane Gillis wants to happen. So he said, let's say Donald Trump is in jail. He said, even if that's the case and he's not the candidate for the Republicans, he still wants him on the stage. Let's take a listen to this.
Here's my idea. Final debate of the year. Have one Republican candidate, one Democrat. Be like, all right, fellas, surprise third guest tonight. Stone cold music, the glass shatters. He walks out, just, they're both gay. And see how they handle that. I think it is actually important to see how the candidates handle that type of pressure of debating with Trump, dude, because so far none of them have been able to handle it. Every debate, he just bullied whoever was up there. The only one who did pretty good in the debates against him was Biden, just because he had no idea what was being said, which actually helped him. That worked out for him. Because Trump's whole thing is he tries to get in the other guy's head, dude. Can't get in Joe's head. Joe's not in there. Good luck, dude. Biden is Trump's kryptonite in a debate. Trump tries to drag the other guy into like a talking contest where he will win. He will win at that. He can't get Biden. He tries. Every debate he's trying so hard. Biden's just... That's it, though. He tries. It's just, you're a loser. Your son did crack. And Biden's just, what?
Okay, so that's kind of like the political comedy. Can I just say, number one, it's been a long time since I've been able to laugh at political comedy because it's been so one-sided left forever. That's actually funny, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and it's funny because it's not mean-spirited. And I think that's what kills what has been political comedy now. Like Saturday Night Live, they're not trying to make jokes. They're trying to be mean, and it's just it doesn't hit, it doesn't land because it's the spirit that with it comes from.
Yeah, I find that in a lot of ways, watching the Saturday Night Lives or any other stand-ups, the mean-spirited nature, and I think that is probably the best way to categorize it. I think it's a reflection that a lot of times the writers feel it is their obligation or duty to take down someone they don't like. Like, this is their platform to write on Saturday Night Live, so I need to use my writing ability in order to use my activism side of things. Like, I need to activate my activism through this way. And a lot of times audiences, they are very self-aware of it, and I'm sure there is an audience that really enjoys that sort of thing. But in the end, they got to realize it's just not real comedy, or it's not really funny by any means. So this is actually funny, and I feel like he kind of makes fun of both sides in this sense. And his Trump impersonation is great Trump impersonation.
Yeah, is he famous for doing Trump impersonations? Because I'm not familiar with his stand-up, but I feel like I've seen him doing impersonations before because he sounds familiar.
Yeah. So I think what happened, and stop me if I'm wrong with this history, he did some stand-up. He got an audition for Saturday Night Live. He got on Saturday Night Live, and then one of the, I don't know, very left-leaning blogs or whatever said, oh, let's take a look at the new class of SNL. And they went back to some of his old podcasts, and it didn't take them long. It took them one podcast to find, oh, he makes fun of a lot of minorities. Like, he makes jokes about everyone, basically. So they said, look at this guy. He hates Asians or something along those lines. Even though when you're doing a comedy podcast, I'm sure the things could get a little bit, racy in a way, but I don't think he meant it in a bad way. They were just jokes. Well, that was enough heat for SNL to drop him. He started to do these skits. I think they were online primarily, and he started to do these Donald Trump impersonation skits, and it essentially looks like a orange bomb went off on his face. The bad hair. It was a really bad physical impersonation of him, but it also was a fantastic audio impersonation of him for his voice. And then he kind of got some notoriety that way through these like digital short things he was doing. And next thing you know, he's like kind of this internet phenomenon where now he's one of the biggest comedians in the world.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't know. I think I remember the part where somebody, I didn't know, got on Night Live, and then he immediately got canceled by cancel culture. But I did not know that was him. I'm glad to hear that he's made a career outside of that.
Right. He is definitely not PC. I've listened to some of his things, but I will tell you that I think a lot of what he does is for the sake of being funny, not mean. It just, and that's the way it goes. But in general, I saw another clip. People were debating that, let's say Donald Trump is the candidate. Are they, whoever the Democratic nomination is going to be, Joe Biden, presumably, is it possible that we don't see presidential debates this year because they just don't want to deal with Donald Trump? They understand his game plan is to go up there. And as Shane Gillis mentions it, he wants to bully his opponent, but you can't bully Joe Biden because there's nothing upstairs to bully.
That's very funny.
Do you think it's a possibility there's no debate this year because they don't like the dynamics or they don't want to put someone on stage with Donald Trump?
So I've heard. So here's the official line right now is that there's going to be 3 debates in the general. Now, of course, we don't know, quote unquote, who the candidates are going to be, but we think we know. What I've heard people suggest is that if it is Trump and Biden, that the way that they'll get Biden out, because Trump would beat most people, as Brad was saying before the show, stylistically, Trump just walks over people. Now, he may not be able to debate somebody like a DeSantis in policy as well, but he just bulldozes anybody near him. And so that sometimes makes him look like he wins, even if he looks like a bully, and he ultimately didn't, quote unquote, win the debate because he didn't change a lot of people's minds. With Biden, that comedian's right. Biden is so unaware of what's happening at any given moment that it's almost like kryptonite for Trump because he can't really get in his head. But with Biden being so bad at debate, with Trump being so much of a bulldozer and Biden being so gone, you could replace either one of those guys with a better debater and have a better debate. But with Biden, regardless of who the Republican is, assuming it's Trump, but even if it's somebody else, the way they would get him out with Trump is to say Biden is above debating an insurrectionist or a dictator or a whatever.
Oh, that's how they spin it.
And say, yeah, so that, this is beneath the office of the presidency to have to debate a convicted criminal and whatever it will be. And therefore, we're backing out of the debates. That's what I've heard suggested.
I am of the mind that there will be no debates, and I think you could almost lock that in. Biden isn't up to the task. I think we can all agree that Biden just doesn't have it. So, Ryan, great point. I agree with you. That's exactly what the Biden camp is going to say. But they will not, he's indicted 91 times. He's under these many criminal prosecutions. But the reality of it is, too, on the Trump side, Trump is under indictment. He will be in court. He will be actively fighting charges against him, and his lawyers will not allow him to put himself on a debate stage where any of that stuff that he says on a debate stage could be used against him in the court of law. Ooh. So he will be like, I'm so far ahead of Biden. I'm so much better than Biden. I don't need to debate him. And he will take the exact same tact against Biden that he took against the Republicans this time around, and we won't see any presidential debates this year.
Yeah. It's basically that meme where it's Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man, but in this case, the two Spider-Mans are the excuses, and they're pointing at each other and like, wow, you're both using the same excuse for each other. Isn't that something?
I got to disagree with Brad. I think, he's making an interesting argument, but I disagree because if that were the case, he wouldn't be doing town halls. He wouldn't be doing rallies and stuff right now. The town halls especially because he's not completely in control of what happens there. So he's just got to be disciplined enough to not say things that will incriminate himself.
He can dodge that, but in a debate, it will be different.
In a town hall, you'd think that would come up too, though, and it's not.
Well, Yeah, but it's not the same in a town hall because he's in control of the narrative, and there will be no back and forth. The reporter or the host of the town hall or the resident that they have ask the question. They'll ask the question, and then Donald Trump can do what any other politician do, is like, oh, thank you for that, and then answer whatever question they wanted to answer anyway, and not even necessarily address the situation. Because good grief, if you've ever watched a town hall, how many times does that happen?
Wow. So let's put this out there because Donald Trump, this was the headline, insists NBC and CNN should have their licenses pulled for not airing his victory speech. So let's say the hypothetical happens. There is no presidential debate. Let's say they schedule one, but both of them say, I don't want to be on the stage with the other person or whatever. Or one person says that, this ain't good for us when it comes to our trial. And somehow someone backs down or they both back down and they both hold their own independent forums on the same nights. Do you think that perhaps them competing against each other, now the networks have to pick a side, would show which side they're on? Like, okay, one's clearly the president of the United States and one clearly is the former president. But, okay, we're going to have to pick the Joe Biden. Do you think that maybe adds some fuel to Donald Trump's claim that NBC, CNN, some of these other institutions have intentionally tried to censor him by not airing, let's say, a political victory speech in Iowa? Can we play that clip number 1, Brad? Do you have that?
Let me pull it up here.
So, yeah, and part of it is I kind of see what he's saying, that it's unfair. It doesn't really have anything to do with licensing, perhaps, but I think it does happen to show the extreme biases that they do have when it comes to one candidate or the other. Can we play that clip? This is Donald Trump making the argument.
But we were talking about a show and how corrupt the press is. And last night, it was amazing. NBC and CNN refused to air my victory speech. Think of it. Because they are crooked, they're dishonest, and frankly, they should have their licenses or whatever they have taken away. They put on...
There's not really a license for CNN per se, I don't think. But... you do see NBC, FCC has certain licensing that goes into it. It's not really a license issue, but what he said before that is they treat him unfairly. Is that an example of him being treated unfairly, not airing the speech?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's 100% a great example of that. That's in fact, Rachel Maddow came out and said, we deliberately didn't air it because we are the I'm putting words in her mouth here and paraphrasing.
What's what she said, essentially,
She said, we're the arbiters of truth. He is so against truth that we have to shape this for you. We have to block you from seeing what he might say because he lies.
Yeah. I mean, essentially what they're saying is that they've labeled him a liar. This guy lies, and therefore we're not going to carry it because we have a responsibility to carry the truth. Forget all that stuff that we did back with the Russia collusion hoax or the Trump tax returns or any of this other stuff.
Avenatti on every night.
Throwing down the lab leak theory.
Yeah, we have a responsibility to make sure that we don't air untruths. Give me a break. You want to prove that you should be able to not air untruths? Prove it by not airing untruths and getting it right 100% of the time.
Hey, let me throw this out there right before. Sorry, Wrecker, I got to throw this out there because you brought this issue up. I'm like, look, if a network has to choose in your scenario between airing Trump and airing Biden, let's say they have competing events, I say air either one of them. Because both of them are going to look better for Trump. If you air Biden's entire town hall, people aren't going to walk away going, oh, man, he makes some good points. They're going to go, that guy is the candidate?
Great.
Well, okay.
It's probably actually better for Trump to have the Biden stuff up there.
It might be.
This is what we need. Okay, is it Vivek Ramaswamy? I'm saying his name, the first name wrong, but have him moderate Donald Trump, the candidate, and then they dip into CNN's Joe Biden speech and have them commentate on Joe Biden live during the debate, like the Manning brothers do on ESPN for Monday Night Football. That would be the greatest.
Vivek and Trump, Mystery Science Theater 3000
Mystery Science Theater with Donald Trump.
That would be incredible.
You guys stay right here. I got to go make a phone call.
We got to get this going, please. Hans von Spakovsky, he is the senior legal fellow for Heritage Foundation, and we got so many questions for him. He's going to come up Also, later in the show, Tyrus is going to join us. I hope we get a chance to talk some Greg Gutfeld. I do have a question for him. There's the new Richard Simmons biopic. I want to know who he thinks should play Greg Gutfeld if there's ever a made-for-TV movie. And I got a couple of recommendations for him, too. But we got so much to get to on the show today. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Andy Frey. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Hi, I'm Tom Connors. Went to Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar February 6, 2019. Nothing worked before. Left there and never smoked again. Amazing. Easy, affordable, and guaranteed. A year later, with my wife Michelle, attended Mark Patrick's weight loss seminar. She lost 18 pounds, and I lost 43 in 8 weeks.
It's true. He smoked 2 packs a day, and nothing worked until Mark Patrick hypnosis. Now we're losing weight together, eating healthy, full on half the food, crazy, enjoying exercising. Who would have believed Mark Patrick hypnosis really works?
It's amazing. I can breathe again, my blood pressure went down, and I've got so much energy.
So much energy.
And look great.
Join Mark Patrick Seminars early bird special, only $49.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings. That's right. Seminars Tuesday, January 30th at the 4 Points by Sheraton St. Louis Fairview Heights in Fairview Heights, and Wednesday, January 31st at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites St. Louis Airport in St. Louis. Weight loss seminar 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar 8 p.m. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. ramp.com/free.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-652-5241 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-652-5241. That's 800-652-5241. What do you have to lose? Call 800-652-5241. Again, 800-652-5241.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. 9 out of 10 homes are under-insulated. Keep the air you're paying to heat where it should be with 15% off attic insulation. For a free estimate on attic insulation, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Conservatives Care supports organizations making a difference in our community. Kim St. Ange here. USO Missouri serves active, reserve, and National Guard military members and their families throughout the St. Louis Metro and Kansas City. Learn how you can support their mission at 971talk.com/care.
Welcome back. I'm Ryan Recker. And it's happy Thursday when I get a chance to be with you guys here today, filling in for Annie Frey. Thank you for doing that. We're going to have Hans von Spakovsky on here in just a moment, but there was one quick story I saw on Fox 2 that apparently Taylor Swift, Taylor the Gracious, it was almost like you hear those stories about, oh, if only I can reach out and touch the Holy Grail, I'll be cured of all my ailments. Well, apparently Taylor Swift gave that moment to a St. Louis woman at the Chiefs-Dolphins game. Can we play that clip real quick?
All right, Blair, thank you. Well, it was a game of a lifetime for these ladies. They could not have imagined this in their wildest dreams. The Chiefs-Dolphins game at Arrowhead on Saturday landed them in these enchanted seats right in front of Taylor Swift, Brittany Mahomes, and Travis Kelce's mom, Donna.
Isn't that great? So you're out there freezing. I mean, literally freezing to death, like a hot dog that's in the freezer. That's probably not the best analogy. And then you turn around, and in the luxury box behind you is a fully warm Taylor Swift in her entourage. And you turn around, and then Taylor hands down the scarf to you, and you put it on, and all of your ailments disappear. It's like a holy grail moment for this person. What a nice moment. Now, I would think just like the old days. Remember what was it? The Beatles would make fun of the cheap seats and the expensive seats, and anyone would do that. I almost feel like this is almost an insult. Like, this is a hand-me-down to show you I'm better than you, and I'm in the good seats and you're not. Let me show you how gracious of a queen I am to you by giving you a small piece of clothing that you may be wrapped around your neck and solve all problems. But now she can probably sell that on eBay for $1,000, so that might be nice.
If
Taylor
as long as
DNA
you
on
have
there.
the proof, yeah.
Well, you got the Fox 2 picture, putting up there right in the news reports.
Right.
Do we have Hans?
Yes.
We do. Hans von Spakovsky is a senior legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation. Happy to have him on the show here today. I always enjoy this segment with Hans. I can't remember. Is there like an intro for Hans? There's not an intro. That's what Mark Cox does in the morning, right? I get them mixed up. Hans, thank you for coming on to 97.1.
Well, thanks for having me. We're kind of in a deep freeze here in D.C., like so many other parts of the country.
I know, it's so bad anywhere you look, but there's going to be a little bit of a warm-up coming up. I have so many questions for you, and I think some of them revolve around Donald Trump. Some of them don't revolve around Donald Trump. I don't know where we even start with something like this, but how about the one that was most interesting to me? Supreme Court signals that it could claw back federal agency power. I saw a piece on this. And how exciting is that to think that we've had all of these federal agencies that have really overstepped their bounds over the years, and we've been able to point to them and say, legally speaking, they shouldn't have this much authority, this much power. And in some ways, it was even granted or allowed to them. But now it's starting to be challenged in a way to say maybe the scope needs to come back a little bit and go to the original intentions of what these agencies are meant to be. And it seems like the Supreme Court may be indicating they tend to agree with that.
Boy, I sure hope so. Look, I spent 6 years inside the federal bureaucracy, and I can tell you, you know how in civics you're taught that we have three branches of government, right? The legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch. That's not true anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. We've had a fourth branch now for a long time called the administrative state, and it's these huge federal agencies filled with bureaucrats who are there no matter who is in the White House. And I can tell you, they have way too much power and too much of an ability to regulate Americans, go after Americans. Their power needs to be pulled way back.
I think a lot of people do see this often. And, part of the power that's also being debated, and this is unrelated, is this immunity question. And I think eventually the Supreme Court is going to have to get to this quickly. The idea of presidential immunity, where do you think that's going to go? Do you have any indication or feeling of how you think that's going to play out?
Well, I think that is going to get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to say, yeah, presidential immunity, of course it exists. No president would be able to function without it. The issue is going to be, where do you draw the line between official conduct that entitles a president to immunity and personal conduct? And that line can be very, very difficult to draw, because a president is in the limelight all the time. They're always in the White House. At what point is what they're doing become a personal matter as opposed to an official duty? That's a hard line to draw, but the Supreme Court they're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, and do you want that? This is the part that is going to be very problematic because let's say, okay, where do you draw the line? Well, we'll let the FBI investigate. We'll let the FBI determine what happens, and we'll do it behind closed doors, behind the scenes. And then whatever happens, they'll determine if it needs to be escalated or not. But there's so much erosion with these different agencies, going back to what the Supreme Court's talking about, clawing back federal agency power. I don't know too many people that trust the FBI anymore. Over the past 10 years, they have just completely destroyed their image. Who do you even put in front of like a panel that could arbitrarily look at this without bias? Protecting one candidate or hating another candidate in the case of Trump or Biden. It seems to me almost impossible to try to handle that line fairly.
Well, I think that's right, particularly because of what has happened, particularly to the FBI in the last few years and the Department of Justice. I can't remember any point in our history where I think I've seen things to be this bad in terms of the weaponization. And that's a word being used a lot now, but it's accurate. Of, for example, our law enforcement agencies to go after the political opponents of the Democrat who's in the White House and to protect his allies. I mean, listen, I'm sure you saw just yesterday that the Justice Department finally said, the Hunter Biden laptop is authentic. How many years did it take them to realize what we've all known since this first happened? That's a graphic example of what's been going on in these federal bureaucracies, or the fact that, as you know, look, there's another case before the Supreme Court about the fact that all these federal agencies were working with social media platforms to censor the opinions and accounts of Americans.
Right. Can I say I'm more cynical when it comes to it? I think they knew right away. I think they decided to act as if they didn't know in order to go to these social media, Facebooks, the Twitters, to try to remember we went to them with a warning first to let them know it was Russian disinformation. So they go out there and they censor the news story. They censor pretty much anything that goes out there. Individual people can talk about it, but the official news sources were almost forbidden to discuss it, else they will get banned from all these social media platforms. I feel like, and this is the cynical side of me, they knew immediately, but they decided to act in the way that it was fake in order to try to influence the election to begin with. So them coming out today saying it is no consolation prize. I think it's a lot worse, and I think that they actively knew what they were doing when that was going on.
Oh, no, I think you're absolutely right about that. This laptop didn't appear under any mysterious circumstances. They knew immediately it had been left by Hunter Biden with a computer repair guy who runs a small shop. The idea that was some kind of Russian outpost is ridiculous and absurd. No, they knew immediately that it was real, and they also saw how damaging it would be, and that's why they set out to do everything they could to try to minimize the damage by making up this propaganda story that, this was just Russian disinformation. No, this was disinformation by Democrats supporting Biden. That's what it was.
Yep. There's so much that is going on in the news. The government shut down and more. I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene said, if you send any more money to Ukraine before we work on the border, then we're going to put you in the same Kevin McCarthy situation. So what do you think that the government should do here? How do you think Republicans should handle the border and foreign aid to Ukraine in the path here to, I guess, avoid another shutdown?
Well, they keep talking about avoiding a shutdown. Why do they think they need to avoid a shutdown? And the reason I say that is that federal law says that even during government shutdowns, people considered essential keep on working. So when the government shuts down, that means that Social Security payments keep going out. Veterans affairs, disability payments still keep going out. The essential things continue. FAA flight controllers, they keep working. All the people who aren't essential, they're the ones who don't show up for work in the federal government. Well, I'll tell you, the more often the federal government shuts down and those non-essential people aren't there interfering with our lives, the better it is. They shouldn't be afraid of a government shutdown if that's what it takes to bring our out-of-control federal budget back to normal and spending levels that we can actually afford.
Yeah, and I thought, by the way, talking about the functioning of the government, it was just earlier this week, they were discussing this pro-Palestinian protest that federal workers were going to engage in, and it was going to be on a day after a federal holiday. And I thought, you got to be kidding. You literally have the day off when no one else does. Work on Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. You're telling me you can't protest on the day that is designated for you to be off. You have to wait till you come back from a holiday, then leave your post. And that shows to me how effective actual federal government is.
Well, it is. And not a single one of those individuals is willing to do that. Every single one of them should lose their jobs. That's if you want to work with the federal government, you need to be non-political, non-partisan. And if you're going to engage in that kind of behavior, you shouldn't be in the federal government.
Right. Hans von Spakovsky, where can people find your work?
Go to heritage.org, heritage.org, and they can find everything I write, even when I write it elsewhere.
In your book, Our Broken Elections, How the Left Changed the Way You Vote, from the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakovsky. You can find his work all over the internet. Thank you so much for joining us here in St. Louis.
Sure, thanks for having me.
One of my favorite segments, Wiggins America, coming up after the break on 97.1 FM Talk.
Baby, under sea, I need you, darling, so come go with me.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Don't miss out on limited time appliance deals during the closeout event at Lowe's. For a limited time, get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, get an additional 20% off in-store clearance appliances. Hurry, these deals are too good to last long. Shop in-store or online today, because Lowe's knows deals. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid 12/28/23 through 1/3/24. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Mark Cox here. Join me, Mark Reardon, and Annie Frey, along with Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw of the Retirement Advisory Group for the next Protecting Your Retirement educational event. It's Tuesday, January 30th at the Frontenac Hilton at 6:30. Seats are limited, so go online at retirementkey.com. Here's Thomas with more.
Are you nearing retirement or already retired and wondering what to do with your life savings? Do you worry about losing your nest egg with the volatility of the stock market? Would you like to know why linking to the market is smarter and safer than owning the market? Did you know if you're 59 and a half or older, you can roll over your company retirement plan tax-free to protect your nest egg from any losses and provide more income than most investment options? You'll get all the answers and more. If you're 59 and a half or older, you can't afford to miss this event.
Protect your retirement nest egg. Join the official financial advisors of my show, Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw, Tuesday, January 30th at the Frontenac Hilton at 6:30. Go online at retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
I was afraid to cut the cord, but once I did, I couldn't believe it took so long to do it. Paying too much for my cable bill had become a bad habit. I either wasn't getting what I wanted or never knew where to find any of my favorite shows until it was too late. Plus, the prices just kept going up. Thankfully, I discovered a new way to watch called Philo. For just $25 a month, I can catch all my favorite shows on networks like BET, MTV, and TLC. It even has Nickelodeon for my kids. I can watch anytime I want, anywhere I want. Plus, Philo lets me have up to 3 streams at once, so everyone can watch what they want at the same time. Throw in the unlimited DVR that saves all my favorites for up to a year, and this really is the best deal in TV. I just wish I hadn't waited so long. Sound too good to be true? Well, try it out for yourself, and you'll see why people who love TV love Philo. Go to philo.tv, that's philo.tv, and start your 7-day free trial now.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
I'm Jim Onder. Not all law firms are created equal. Don't risk your future with just any firm. See how Onder Law is different.
Onder Law. Call 314 or 618-9000 to learn more.
Today's Annie Frey YouTube live chat poll is the New Hampshire primaries. The subject of this poll: will Nikki Haley win in New Hampshire? A simple yes or no. We just like to know how many people among this audience think that Nikki Haley is going to win in New Hampshire. Let us know. Annie Frey YouTube live chat poll. It is 12:43. Wiggins America coming up next. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
You're here to connect and to know. We're here to deliver the world, the country, and the community.
Your home for conservative talk.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Welcome back. I'm Ryan Recker, and got to say, it's been a nice start to the show. Always have a good time when Hans gets to join us. But there's only one segment that I look forward to the most whenever I get to fill in. It's Wiggins!
Wiggins! Oh! Wiggins! If you had said anything but Wiggins America after building that up.
Build it up.
I actually would
it's
tip my
hanging
hat
out with
to you.
Brad.
Yeah. I'd have said, oh, yeah.
So,
all right.
but we got to do Wiggins first.
Yeah, so the subject of today's Wiggins America is actually surprise, surprise. No, that's not the way I wanted to start this. I got a much better intro, I promise. Here we go. All right, the big winner coming out of Iowa caucuses was clearly Donald Trump. But you know who came in second? The polls. See, that's much better.
Slow clap radio. You're doing radio things.
Yes, thank you very much. The polls were very, very accurate for the Iowa caucuses. Surprise, surprise. So if you're wondering how accurate they were, for Donald Trump, he got 51% of the total vote. That was within 1% of his polling. Haley, 19%. That was within 1% as well. Ramaswamy, 7.7. His predicted results were 6.8, so he was within a point as well. The only person who outperformed those polls, Ron DeSantis.
I told you he would.
Yeah, good for you. He still was only at 21%.
Outperformed.
And they predicted him at about 15 or 16. So he did outperform them by 5%, which is to say something. But for the most part, the polls were pretty darn accurate. So the reason I bring that up is simply to walk you down this road that when you look at the general election polling, you can look state by state too, but it's easier to see in the general election polling, the last couple of them that I'm looking at here, Trump versus Biden. This is from I&I and TIP. That's a major pollster. It's one of the more recent ones. Trump 41, Biden 40. So Trump +1. But if you add in third-party candidates, Trump versus Biden versus Kennedy versus Manchin versus West versus Stein, and they also threw in somebody in there named Mapstead, who I don't even know who that is.
What?
But this is from that pollster, I&I and TIP. Trump then goes to +3. So while both of them lose percentages, Trump loses less.
Yes.
That is the theme. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
That last name, I think you meant to say placeholder.
Yeah,
for someone else.
Person.
No one knows.
Last name here is the other person.
That's interesting to me, honestly, because how many times have you heard people say that the third-party candidates benefit the Democrats? In this case, it does not seem to be the case.
Well, you know what's interesting, Ryan, is that in the very early polling, it looked like it either had no effect or maybe might benefit Biden a little bit. that has slipped in the opposite direction. And I'm not one of those people who thinks that this is going to make a major impact, because if you have all those names, and it really depends, because sometimes they'll just add in RFK, or sometimes they'll just add in somebody like Jill Stein. But when you add all of them like that, including Mapstead, whoever that is, that guy's barely polling, by the way, surprise. It does seem to favor Trump by a little bit. Another example, Reuters is Ipsos just came out too. General election, Trump versus Biden, it's a tie. Trump versus Biden versus Kennedy, Trump +1. So he pulls from both of them, but he seems to pull from Biden more.
Yeah. When you listed all those voters in that first poll, are all those candidates, the 2 third-party candidates that are the three of them have actually declared. I don't know about Mapstead. Manchin is a maybe, but Cornel West is running. I don't know if he's on every ballot. Jill Stein is running, which is ironic because Cornel West was originally running as Green Party. Now he's doing, independent or something like that?
Yeah, that's been a strange story, but yes.
Yeah, and then RFK is running.
Yes.
Outside of that, Joe Manchin has not declared, and he says he doesn't want to play spoiler. And it's like, I don't know how you can run third party and not play spoiler.
Ryan, what do you think right now about these third-party candidates? Are they a factor? Do anybody have an actual chance, or are they just spoilers?
I think much like you've seen in every other election, you're going to find that it's fun to look at it early on, and then when push comes to shove, all you got to say is, there's too much at risk here. You can't throw your vote away on a third party, so you're going to have to vote for fill-in-the-blank candidate that's your main affiliation, Republican, Democrat. And I think that'll essentially play out that way. I don't think there's any Ross Perot's here. I don't see any of them being major factors. Ross Perot was a cool dude, all things considered. I don't know if there's any documentaries about him out there, but I find whenever a YouTube video comes up about him, I watch it with great enjoyment. He was a very special guy. I don't see any of these candidates that as special as a guy like that actually was able to pull away from an election. So I think it's fun to speculate and look at it now, just because we're in that mode of there's still a lot of Republican candidates still on the ballot, even though we know the direction it's going. But when it narrows its way down, it's pretty much going to be funneled out.
When my respect goes to Dana Carvey for doing a great Ross Perot, because that's how I remember Ross Perot the most. Let me throw this out there, though. This general election poll with Reuters suggests that right now Kennedy is getting 18% of the vote. That's a pretty large share. That would be roughly Perot in 92.
That don't seem right.
It doesn't to me either. I think it's very possible that what you're saying is true, that in such a divided country, which we weren't in 92, I think that's why Perot was able to carry so much, that you would see people kind of go to their corners a little bit more toward the general. Let me throw this out there, though. When you look at individual states, first of all, Trump is doing very, very well in swing states right now.
Yeah.
But it's kind of strange because it's not all of the ones you'd think. Like in Pennsylvania, he's doing okay, but he's not doing great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's within striking distance. But Biden is still generally winning Pennsylvania in the polls. But he's doing really well. Trump is doing really well in states like Georgia, in states like Nevada, and Michigan. I don't know what it is about Michigan, but he continues to poll in every poll very well in Michigan.
Man, that's the one that makes me go, ugh.
I know, because of Detroit. But
being that I'm here in Michigan, I'll tell you that we have a governor, and you may have heard of her, Gretchen Whitmer. They always do the internal polling. What if she was on the ballot and not Biden? And in Michigan, she polls very well, which kind of scares me. But what you see in places like here and really blue states is they all try to deflect the praise that may be coming towards them as politicians towards Joe Biden. They are unified because they understand that, if anything happens, if Joe Biden was involved or not involved, or maybe not even aware of any involvement from the federal government, they'll still give him full credit for it. So they're doing everything they can to try to brush off their popularity inside of the state in order to try to pump up Joe Biden. So I think like in Michigan, when you see things like that, that's what's happening. It's basically you have most people that would normally vote Democrat but hate Joe Biden, they kind of have the runoff effect from Gretchen Whitmer that's carrying them in a situation like that.
Interesting. So you've probably seen this poll, being in Michigan, Detroit News. Michigan, Trump versus Biden, Trump would win by 8 points. But if you add in Trump versus Biden versus Manchin, Stein, and this Mapstead guy or girl, I actually didn't have any idea who this
It's a guy,
Mapstead.
Lars.
Is
I had
it?
to look it up.
Lars Mapstead.
Ooh.
Ooh, I kind of like
That's
this.
a good name, President Lars.
That's the subject of tomorrow's poll. Will you vote for Lars Mapstead? The polling does change when you add in all those third-party candidates, though. It goes from Trump plus 8 to Trump plus 11 when you're looking at the Detroit News poll. When you talk about Nevada, Trump versus Biden head-to-head, Trump plus 2. Nevada, you add all of those other candidates, it goes to Trump plus 3. So it's not always dramatic. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is to get to this article from Reuters that came out today that says that Biden allies are plotting to thwart third-party bids that threaten his reelection.
Yeah.
So they have
that No Labels nonprofit was in the news too, trying to make sure that their third parties get on the ballot and they're not thwarted.
That's exactly what this says. Worried that third-party bids from a centrist group called No Labels and, the way Reuters phrases this, anti-vaccine activist, which, by the way, if you ever see this guy in an interview, that's one of the subjects that's going to come up. That's fair. But he's not anti-vaccine. He is anti the quickness with which the COVID vaccine was rushed to market. That is it.
Uh-huh.
And he says it over and over and over. Yet Reuters, doing deep homework here, anti-vaccine activist Robert F. Kennedy Jr., it says they could siphon off votes from Biden, and that's why I read all those polls, in key states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona. American Bridge is this activist organization. They have hired prominent election attorney Mark Elias, who you've heard his name before, to help thwart these outsider bids, among many other things. Now, the question that I wanted to pose to you, Ryan and Brad, is this is the party of defend democracy. Does this fly in the face? And an honest question, because you could say, no, this is just part of the strategy. Does this fly in the face of the party that it supports democracy to try to keep as many candidates off the ballot as possible using legal loopholes?
Ooh,
I'm going to
Brad,
say,
you want to go first?
Yeah, it absolutely does. The whole we're here to defend democracy by giving you one choice. You can vote for whoever you want as long as it's Joe Biden. Is kind of the Democrat line. We're defending democracy, and if you don't vote for this guy, like the party, if given the opportunity, if they could wave a magic wand and remove everybody from the ballot and just leave Joe Biden, they would 100% do it. It's not about democracy. It's not about any of that. It's about winning, and that's it. It's the same reason that they're trying to keep other people off. You know what they want.
I would.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Brad.
They just want to keep Trump off the ballot. They want to win. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's what this is what I would normally say. I would say there's a reason why there's a threshold of what you need to do in order to get your name on a ballot. A lot of states have a certain amount of signatures, or you have to poll a certain way in the party in order to stay on the primary, whatever it may be. But when you go deeper and say that the leading candidate of the opposing party is not allowed to show up on a ballot, then it goes to show you that their motives are something else. And I do think it's coordinated. I do think they've been trying to lay the groundwork for this for the last couple of years. Ever since, January 6th, they have been yelling insurrection over and over again into a moment like this where you can look back at it and say, well, it's obvious. Haven't you seen our reporting? He's a known insurrectionist. And I think that they continue to use that line, and they knew they were going to use that strategy from the beginning in order to try to make this 14th Amendment claim, even if it wasn't a valid claim, but they knew it would be something that would get caught up in the courts or maybe stumble or make it difficult for an opponent to get back onto the ballot. I don't think it's a pure motivation for them. I do think it was calculated, and that's why I would say that, yes, they are trying to stifle democracy by doing it.
Well, I'll just add before we get to the top of the hour here that I think this is a fine strategy. I don't really see anything wrong with the strategy that they're using to keep other candidates that would keep your candidate from winning. It's just that you can't bill yourself as so pro-democracy and then do this. You have to say, look, we support the republic the way it is. We want them to follow the law. And then leave it there, and don't try to keep, especially your biggest candidate, Donald Trump, off the ballot. That's so hypocritical.
Yeah. And let's not forget, the Democrats, too, had to change the rules to keep Tulsi Gabbard off the stage. They were changing rules from even before that election. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in. I hope we get to talk to Tyrus after the break on 97.1 FM Talk.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-652-5241 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-652-5241. That's 800-652-5241. What do you have to lose? Call 800-652-5241. Again, 800-652-5241.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
No paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
It's Tom Ackerman. Need to get my eyes checked once a year from Ophthalmology Associates. It's an annual eye health examination that I absolutely need if I want to see clearly and I want to be able to tell you what I see in everything that I do on the radio and in life. The doctors of Ophthalmology Associates will help me with that. 314-966-5000 is the number to call for an appointment. 314-966-5000, Ophthalmology Associates. Doctors Greg Birdie, Ranjan Malhotra, Robert Brusati, Andrew Royer, and Samuel Berry. He is a cornea surgeon. He has the knowledge and techniques for advanced eye care and treatment in the field, just like the other doctors. The doctors, they call them that because they have over 250 doctors as patients. That is more than any other practice. Ophthalmology Associates, 314-966-5000. Ophthalmology Associates, yourEyeDoc.com.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
What went wrong in Uvalde? I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. A Justice Department report on the 2022 massacre at a Texas elementary school cites cascading failures in the response. Most significantly, the transition from active shooter to barricaded subject shortly after the first responding officers took gunfire.
33 students and 3 of their teachers, many of whom have been shot, were trapped in a room with an active shooter for over an hour as law enforcement officials remained outside.
Attorney General Merrick Garland has been meeting with families in Uvalde where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed. Kimberly Mata Rubio lost her 10-year-old daughter.
I hope that the failures end today.
Calling for firings and criminal charges. Prosecutors in Texas still reviewing the case. U.S. defense officials just confirming the 5th round of strikes in less than a week on Houthi targets in Yemen, hitting 2 anti-ship missiles that the U.S. says the Iran-backed rebels were preparing to launch today. Congress has even less time now to avoid a partial government shutdown thanks to a snowstorm moving in ahead of tomorrow's deadline. The Senate set to vote first on a stopgap measure that House Speaker Mike Johnson supports to allow more time again to work on longer-term budget bills, but some fellow Republicans object.
Arch conservatives don't like that Johnson cut a deal with Democrats. They dislike the spending number, and they oppose Johnson doing yet another interim bill. That's why Johnson is relying on Democrats to pass the bill.
Fox's Chad Pergram on the Hill. The judge overseeing an election interference case in Georgia that has multiple defendants, including former President Trump, has just set a February hearing on claims of misconduct by the Fulton County DA, Fonnie Willis. Willis, accused of hiring a suspected romantic partner as a special prosecutor and then personal use of taxpayer funds. Willis has defended her hiring decisions. America is listening to Fox News.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-222-3967. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-222-3967 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-222-3967.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Keeping it cloudy going through the afternoon. A couple of snow flurries from time to time, and 35 for the high. Tonight, light snow, windy and cold. An Arctic cold front arriving. 12 for the low. The wind chill -5. Less than an inch accumulation of light snow, but that's enough to slick the roads up. Friday, a mix of clouds and sunshine, windy and cold. 15 on Friday. The wind chill -10. Cold times right through the weekend. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
97.1 FM Talk. You're here. You're here. Not because of a label, but because conservative ideas actually work. St. Louis is home for conservative talk. This is 97.1 FM Talk.
Let's talk about saving money on your grocery bill. I am not passing up any opportunity right now in 2024 to save a penny or save $1 or even more, which is why Ruler Foods is so great for the Frey family. We're feeding 6 people in our house, including a 14-year-old boy, which means we're probably feeding more than 6 people. Man, he ate the other day. He ate he ate 2 hot dogs and 3 cheeseburgers, and he's tall and lanky, so we let him do it. You need to save money when you are shopping on your grocery bills when you're feeding these kinds of people, and Ruler Foods is there every single time to make sure that we can do that. If you're looking for the particular savings for any given week at any given time, did you know you can go online to rulerfoods.com? And you can see the ad that they have out. So you can see where you can save on your produce or on your fresh frozen meat, or you can save on your frozen goods or your dairy goods. Did you also know that they have Kroger brands at Ruler Foods prices? Find the Ruler Foods and their ad that's closest to you at rulerfoods.com.
This is an announcement to all United States vehicle owners who own a 2003 or newer vehicle with a manufacturer's warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all. With a struggling economy and the cost of living on the rise, Endurance is now offering an affordable, low-cost vehicle coverage plan to the general public. As of today, you could be one of millions of drivers that now may qualify to have your vehicle protected under this coverage and have all future covered auto repairs paid directly to the repair shop for you. You pick your plan. You pick your deductible. You even pick the repair shop. Roadside service, towing, and rental coverage is included. Get your vehicle protected now and save your wallet from costly vehicle repairs. A toll-free number has been established for you to call for your free 5-minute quote and to see if you qualify. The number to call is 800-291-1017. 800-291-1017. Again, that's 800-291-1017. Coverage, deductibles, and claims may vary. For details, go to endurancewarranty.com.
Mark Cox here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how to link to the market without the risk. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go online to retirementkey.com.
Tune into the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Del, self-made millionaire and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, will show you how to live the life of your dreams and pay for it with passive income.
Listen to the Del Walmsley Radio Show this Saturday afternoon from 1 to 2 p.m. on 97.1 FM Talk.
The Annie Frey Show YouTube live chat poll of the day is sponsored by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong.
the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
And welcome back. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Annie Frey, 97.1 FM Talk. Glad to be here with you guys. And it sounds like we're having a hard time getting hold of Tyrus, but that's okay. I have a scenario for you guys, and maybe you can help me, because I was going to bring this up to Tyrus, but I feel like getting the boys together, this might be the right time to get some advice. And I could probably use some comments in the chat about this too. If you're watching on YouTube, vote in the poll. And also help me figure out how I'm going to get out of the doghouse, because my wife is very upset with me right now. And both of you are married. You kind of know what it's like when you do something that you think is very funny, but your wife does not think is very funny. I'm in one of those scenarios right now. I'm hoping you guys might be able to help me. So I did something that most dads do to their children. They teach them a trick, the pull my finger trick, classic trick. I have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. And Ryan, I can't remember. Your kids are right around the same age, aren't they? Roughly
9 and 6, yeah.
9 and 6, a little bit older. Have you taught them the pull my finger trick?
No, I don't really need any sort of I don't need anybody to light the wick, basically.
They have natural comedic timing.
Right. So I taught this to my 3-year-old daughter. She thinks it's great. And I got to tell you, the pull my finger, she has great control for a 3-year-old, because she runs right up to me, pull my finger. So I did a little bit more than just teach her the pull my finger. I said, if anyone asks you where you learned this, you say mommy.
Oh, I like
now. My wife. My wife takes the kids to church. I unfortunately work on Sundays, most Sundays. So my wife will take the kids to church. I don't always get to go because a lot of times I'm at work. She takes the kids to church, and the kids go to their individual classes at the start of church, kind of like the children's ministry. And the teacher of this child's ministry comes up to my wife after the services and says, your daughter did the pull my finger trick and said that you taught her. And my wife was so embarrassed, and she got so mad at me. But I'm telling you, that hilarious day of reckoning of setting that up and teaching my daughter that, I thought it was hilarious. So my wife tells me, and she's really upset because of how embarrassed she was. This is church. They're in their best clothes, looking all nice and everything, in the place where this shouldn't happen. And she's so mad at me, and I think it's just so funny. And that made things worse. And now I'm in the doghouse, and I don't know what to do.
Well,
you have any advice?
Yeah, if you were asking for advice, I would say, first of all, great job.
Yeah.
And second of all,
kudos.
It was funny. She's in the wrong here. You're in the right. And you should embrace that. And in fact, you should use this. We'll make this into a clip for Instagram or whatever. And then you can use it as evidence to back up your case.
Do you think if Annie was here, she would agree with this? I think it's a man-woman thing, like a mom, dad differences of opinion.
I think I could speak on behalf of Annie and say that she'd be fine with this. She would confirm that you were right. And so,
so funny.
Yeah, I mean, we'll text her probably later and find out.
Ryan, as somebody who works in a children's ministry and has done so for quite some time, if I had a kid do that joke with me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where'd you learn that? And they're like, my mom taught me. I'm like, your dad is hilarious. So what I need you to know, or what I need you to do is you can convey to your wife that somebody that you know, a close friend of yours, who works in ministry, says there's no way that person believes that she taught that to her daughter. That is 100% dad, and it was perfect comedic timing. And along with Ryan, I agree. You were right.
Yeah.
Teach your daughter that, and then everybody laugh and have a good time, and your wife can just kind of, I don't want to say tell her to relax because that's a terrible idea. But
relax. I'm looking at some of these comments right now.
They don't think she did it.
Andrew said, my woman would kill me. One person said Wiggins is not the one you asked for advice. There's so many comments coming in. All right. They don't look at it the same way, I think. But I really don't know what I'm going to do. I think that one day she's going to have, a big payback moment.
Yes.
And I'll know exactly why it happened. I'll be like, oh, it's the finger thing. It's the pull my finger thing.
And in that moment, will you think, I shouldn't have done that with the pull my finger thing?
No.
Or worth it?
It was so worth it. She would have to do something so bad, embarrassing for me. But that's the thing. She knows the things that would trigger me into embarrassment. So I think she may be waiting until we're with some friends and she'll bring up something really bad. And I'll know by the way she's looking at me, that's the payback. And I'm just going to have to take it in order to make things even again. So not amused, but I'm amused. I got to say, thanks for the advice here. Next time it comes up, I'm just going to say, hey, the guy said that's hilarious. What's funny is funny, and there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Can I play a clip for you, or maybe you play a clip for us? Vice President Kamala Harris was out talking about, the successes of the Biden administration. I wanted to get your reaction to this. This is clip number 5.
We have to earn the reelect. And we have to communicate what we have achieved.
Yes.
And that is going to be one of our big challenges. We've done a lot of good work. We need to let people know who brung it to them.
Okay. There's so much to unpack there. Just maybe 2 main things to unpack. Number 1, do you think she's purposely talking down, like, gotta let them know who brung it to them? Like, she's kind of... This is what she's notorious for. She's notorious for talking down to people, as in overly simplifying and then almost speaking like you have a 4th grade education. It feels like that's the type of people she's trying to get votes from, because that's where she always talks down to people, Kamala Harris, when she's trying to get sound bites done. But the second thing is it just a communication issue? Is it the Biden administration is doing so great? It's just that their communication, or maybe if you want to put the silent part out loud, their propaganda, isn't working, and they have to find a better way to package their messages?
I got an answer that'll answer both of those questions for you in one. She's just actually that bad at communication. She doesn't have some sort of angle like she's talking down to people. She just doesn't know what she's doing most of the time. And therefore, that also answers the second question, because she thinks, well, if we could just message better, because she's telling herself, if I could just message better. She's so bad at it. It's really amazing to see somebody at that level. And look, I talk to people all the time in my life who are not message makers. They're not communicators. Like, we literally are communicators for a living. I get it. We mess up too. But this is the Vice President of the United States. Cannot communicate messages very well at all, nor can the press secretary, nor can the president.
Can I interject here for a second? I think the messenger should be the president. If he's not on vacation half of the time of his presidency, they're not going to let him in front of people. He doesn't speak to the press. He doesn't get in front of a podium to take hard questions during the press briefings or anything like that. If your messenger is silent and you're complaining that there's an issue with that, then you got to go back and wonder, why are they silencing him? And there's probably a reason for that. So I don't even think it's a message issue per se. I think that their most prominent message giver, the president of the United States, they don't feel comfortable letting him out to do that.
It's a perfect storm.
Yeah.
They've got no good messengers. There's nobody who is a good communicator in this administration whatsoever, and they don't have a good message to communicate. When you look at everything, you can't fool people with Bidenomics, because people go to the grocery store every day and they buy stuff, and it's something that is constantly put back in their face. They look at it, they say, this isn't good. So it doesn't matter how good your messenger is when the reality of people's lives set in and it says otherwise. People, they don't think that things are going well because they are experiencing things badly. Things aren't going well in their life. And so any type of message that they come out there with, like, well, things are good, you just don't know what's good because we haven't told you what's good. They're like, fool, listen to me. Things aren't good, and you're telling me I'm stupid because I don't understand how good things are. That's a problem.
If I have to,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if I have to hear Kamala Harris say that one catchphrase she uses all the time, we need to unburden once has been, or whatever. She does like a different spin off of that one phrase.
Unburdened by what has been.
We can be unburdened by what has been. If I have to hear her say that one more time, maybe that's part of the message, that you repeat the same junk over and over again. And there's other commentators that are kind of looking at this and laughing at it too. This is clip number 4 that you pulled. Charlemagne is a radio DJ. He does the Breakfast Club in New York, and it's one of the most popular morning shows, syndicated morning shows on radio, but he also transcends that. He's done some television stuff, and he's very popular. I think he's looked at as in the urban radio format. So when you find like programming that's directed towards like urban music, R&B, things like that, this is a very popular, it's like him and Steve Harvey are like the 2 most popular radio shows when it comes to that. Let's play his thought on all of this. Clip number 4.
He can do it, and I see Joe every day. I see him out,
Biden,
traveling around this country. I see his vigor. I see his energy. I see his passion every single day.
No. I don't even know why. I mean, listen, man, I get it because, we're stuck with what we got, right? Like, I think that the Republican Party should move away from Donald Trump, and I think that the Democratic Party should move away from Joe Biden, but we're stuck with what we're got. So, I mean, she has to be optimistic. I mean, she has to say those things. What is she going to say? Like, oh, I think my husband, I don't think he's going to make it through 4 years. I think he's going to drop dead after 2. Like, I mean, what is she supposed to say?
That was Charlemagne on his show. Can I just say real quick? Now, this is the same show, if you remember. What Biden went on there and says, you know what? Actually, I think I have the clip. I should try to find it. But if you don't know who to vote for, then you ain't black. Now, that's what Joe Biden said on Charlemagne. If you go back even further, Hillary Clinton went on Charlemagne's show and says, basically, I love hot sauce. I can't go anywhere without hot sauce in my purse. Hillary Clinton says this, trying to impress him. So this is what I'll say. Number one, I totally respect that opinion. And to me, that almost sounds like a Republican opinion in a lot of different ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. He's echoing the sentiment of a lot of America, and that is why Donald Trump's going to win. They don't love Donald Trump. They don't like Joe Biden. And these are traditionally Biden voters. These are Democrat voters who are just not going to turn out for him, which is also why everybody keeps saying, Brad's saying it, everybody, even around this office, are saying it. It ain't going to be Joe. Joe's not going to be the guy. And that's the case for Joe not being the guy right there.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. He's struggling super hard with the African-American vote, with the black vote, especially black men.
That's a fact.
He is struggling. He is deeply underwater with them.
Well, they know. They know what's up because they live it. And, listen, Kamala Harris understands. It's just a messaging issue. If only they got the right message out there, then they would understand their lives aren't so bad under Joe Biden. But then they realize the reality of what's going on in the streets in their own homes. You can't deny the problems that people have that were caused by this administration. And all of them are out there saying, no, you just don't understand. All your problems are gone. And they're saying, no, they're not. They're saying, yes, they are. Don't you know they are? And no one's buying it because it's not true in reality.
Well, they have control. This is why they can't understand it. They have controlled the message for so long. And that hasn't changed. They still control the message. It's just that there is no message. The messengers of the media would carry any message that was cohesive. I mean, they're trying to still push Bidenomics as being this positive thing. They're trying different things, but none of it works because this administration has been so bad and cannot explain why they've made so many of the decisions they've made on the border, for instance. But the economy is the big one. They can't explain why they've done so bad because they don't know how to actually run an economy.
Yeah, I had the Joe Biden soundboard on my little audio mixer here, and I've always kept this one on the soundboard.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
That was Joe Biden on Charlemagne's radio show during the last election.
Gee,
what a great soundbite.
It's so blatantly racist, though, isn't it?
It's so bad. It's so bad.
And the hairy leg speech, I keep that one handy, too, because that's such a great speech.
And by the way, I sit on the stand, and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I tell you what.
Oh, boy. And he got a free pass for calling. And again, when he's talking about his era in kids, roaches is a term for black children that was used during his era at that time. So he got a free pass for that too. Oh, and every time that was brought up, it was like completely ushered aside. Obviously, that he would never do anything or say anything that's racist, but he gets a free pass for stuff like that. And over and over again, it's examples that you could bring up about Joe Biden. And that was during the last election. And I think this is one of the reasons why they realized that you can't get him in front of people to have an open mic because he'll just keep saying stuff like this. Very embarrassing. And he hasn't gotten any better. In fact, he's gotten exponentially worse, which normally happens with age. And he's not going to get any better, and he's not going to get any stronger. He's just going to get more feeble. So we just got to face the reality, and I think a lot of people understand that. And Charlemagne is not wrong to say both parties are looking at their main candidate saying, I wish there was someone different, but this is the hand you're dealt with, and this is what you're dealing with. So when you look at the poor hands, which one's stronger? In this case, maybe the Republicans make the stronger case that things are a lot better under Trump than they are right now with Biden.
It's a pretty easy message to make. It's easy to argue that.
It is. All right, when we come back, I wanted to bring you up a story from The Intercept, and this is a really fascinating story about how the FBI essentially radicalized someone to join a terrorist organization. Crazy story. Coming up after the break. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Andy Frey. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk.
Like a bull chasing the matadors, a man left his own schemes.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on Instagram at The Annie Frey Show.
Listen, it's no secret most real estate agents make big promises and oftentimes end up selling their clients' homes for less than what they may have been led to believe. This is not the case for my friend and trusted agent Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, St. Louis real estate expert. Mark Cox here. Gloria doesn't make promises she can't keep. She makes guarantees in writing. Here's the truth. Right now, agents know that some customers will choose the agent that tells them the highest price. Talk about a stressful way to sell a home. Gloria makes it really simple by providing an upfront written guaranteed price. And if your home sells for less than the guaranteed price, she will pay you the difference. Gloria takes all the risk off the table for a home seller who's trying to get the most amount of money for their home. Get your guaranteed price right now. Call Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888. That's 314-325-6888. Or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN creator of Lumi, the whole body deodorant that's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, privates, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower with soap alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And who doesn't want zero body odor? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code SMELLBETTER and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code SMELLBETTER. LUMEdeodorant.com, code SMELLBETTER for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. Love it or return it for free. That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code SMELLBETTER.
I was having a lot of sinus infections. My sinuses were clogged, pressure, headaches.
Linda suffered for years with chronic sinus infections.
You don't feel like doing anything. When you feel like your head is completely clogged, all you want to do is just lay down and sleep. And the pressure, it's just not fun, always walking around with a headache.
Now, her issues are gone. How? A minimally invasive procedure done in the office of St. Louis Sinus Centers called balloon sinuplasty.
I really did not know what it was like to feel like you're really breathing and not being so clogged up. I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I would definitely recommend it for someone else.
Do you suffer with chronic sinus infections, facial pain, pressure, congestion? Find out if balloon sinuplasty is the solution for you. Set an appointment today with St. Louis Sinus Centers. Call 314-332-2885. 314-332-2885. That's 314-332-2885.
Jules on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, and fine watches. Bring your collectibles and clocks, sports memorabilia, and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa. Call them at 314-752-5000. That's 314-752-5000. So if you need some extra cash, looking for that one-of-a-kind piece, make Jewels on Hampton your first stop. Jewels on Hampton in St. Louis Hills.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. 9 out of 10 homes are under-insulated. Keep the air you're paying to heat where it should be with 0% financing for 36 months on attic insulation. For details, visit aircomfortservice.com.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
The Mark Reardon Show.
Hey, why are commercial fishermen in this country fighting for their rights at the Supreme Court? Our friend Ilya Shapiro with the Manhattan Institute joins us Thursday afternoon.
Weekdays from 3 to 6 on 97.1 FM Talk.
I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Come rub my legs.
Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
We are
at the end here.
I got hairy legs. Yeah.
What a great song.
That's right. You heard what I said.
What I said. I love this too. Let's just keep listening to this.
Yeah, man.
Gold. Absolute gold. That was the Shomo guys or whatever they were that basically did the auto-tune songs back in the day. They did the
Songify.
Songify, yes. Awesome use of the internet. That's what the internet was made for. Things
I
like
agree.
that, honestly.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Can I talk about this one story in The Intercept? I don't know if you guys had a chance to read this one story, but it was really fascinating. So essentially there was a 16-year-old. His name was Hamza Mashkour. And when he turned 16 years old, he started to do what some 16-year-olds do that don't necessarily have a good understanding of what's proper etiquette, what's, taboo, what's not. It doesn't help that he's autistic, but he started to some of the terrorist extremist things that he saw online. So in today's world, people post videos of terrorists and, in some ways, even the terrorists are allowed on Facebook and Twitter. You get these terrorist states with their leaders out there putting out their hate for the Jews, and that's somehow allowed on social media and acceptable for some reason. But you also find that some of these extremist groups are posting beheadings and some of these terrible, terrible things online. And you have teenagers that look at that and say, oh, neat. And they'll, repost it, or they'll do other things. So they'll go into different Discord chat rooms and they'll talk about it. And it's like, to them, they probably feel like, oh, we're just edgy, or this is kind of like dark humor. And, oh, no one understands me. They may look at it as entertainment, more or less. And apparently the FBI uses that as an opportunity to reach out and befriend some of these teenagers that are acting this way. So they notice some of these posts that this 16-year-old is posting online, and they start friending him under the guise that they are ISIS terrorists. So they kind of ease their way in, and they'll say, oh, I noticed that you like these things online. Let me tell you about our organization, almost like a Jehovah's Witness, a very twisted, terrible Jehovah's Witness. And they go in there and they hand them digitally hand them the pamphlet. And for the next couple of years, until he turns 18 years old, year and a half or whatever it is, from 16 to 18 years old, this 16-year-old becomes more and more radicalized by befriending these fake ISIS members that are actually the FBI. And on his 18th birthday, they convince him to fly out to Denver. And when he is off the plane, the FBI arrests him on terrorism charges. The defense attorney for this person says, you led him down this path. The kid's a high-functioning autistic. Mentally speaking, he's got books, Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, which kind of show you he's a middle school mentality. These are not meant for, teenagers, 18 years old type of books. And they said, you basically were the ones, the FBI, you're the ones that led him to be radicalized. I am just so intrigued by this story. Undercover FBI agents, and this was a story that was put together by The Intercept. It doesn't surprise you that the FBI, in trying to entrap someone, that they actually are the ones radicalizing some people. And let me point out, I think we saw a very similar case when it came to the FBI in Michigan, when it came to the Governor Whitmer kidnapping plot. They were the ones, I think, in a lot of ways, though part of the group saying that they were undercover watching this, but also probably helped radicalize some of these people to go further than they ever would have. So does it surprise you that the FBI acts this way when it comes to terrorists?
No, that was the exact example I was going to bring up, was the Gretchen Whitmer example, the fake, not the fake, but the failed kidnapping of the governor of Michigan. It's so ridiculous. And this was something that was parroted a lot by my leftist friends, that they said, look how ridiculous MAGA is. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, well, A, I don't know that these crazy people in Michigan are MAGA. And then second, we find out later it was the FBI pushing them to do it, and they do this all the time. Go ahead.
I mean, it's based on what Ryan has described in this article here. They basically created this guy and then arrested him for being what they created him to be. Like, you're the FBI, you're supposed to catch terrorists, not create them and then catch them.
Right.
You know, this is like farm-raised terrorism. It's like we grew him, we harvested him, we made him exactly what we wanted, and then we arrested him.
You know what? I'm gonna go here because this is where it goes next. This is part of what happened on January 6, 2021. And you know how I know? Because they sat Christopher Wray down for a deposition, the head of the FBI, and said, tell me there were no plants from the FBI radicalizing and pushing people to commit violence on January 6th. And he said, no comment. The easiest thing for you to say there, if it was no, would be no, which means it was yes.
So let me point this out, and I'm going to make another example, and tell me if you think I'm off base. But here's a quote from one of his lawyers. The whole case demonstrates the low level of maturity and social skills often found in people who suffer from autism. He is fantasizing and making up plans to go to Afghanistan that he could not possibly realize on his own. Okay, so I do believe that to be true. Now, I'm going to equate this to something else, and you tell me if I'm really off base. We use the term groomers when we talk about grown adults that try to sexualize children and lead them down a path that they normally wouldn't be led down. Is it possible there's different subcategories of groomers, and this would be an example of someone being groomed for, you know, the FBI perhaps grooming these kids to entrap them into terrorism charges? Is it too wrong to compare or use that word groomers here?
No, I mean, they definitely, you know, for lack of a better term, groomed him. They turned him into what they wanted him to be so that they could arrest him. I mean, it was like a whole sting operation. But my thing is this: why? What is their end game here? Why, like, you really want, like, I want the FBI out there catching real terrorists. I don't want real terrorism in the United States. And I think that there is a functional purpose to the FBI doing that sort of thing. But why are they doing this? They're creating the issue and then solving the issue that they created. I don't understand that. I don't know if it's to justify the size of their bureaucracy. It's like, oh, look, we need to have all of this so we can justify all the funds that we get. I don't know. Because, like, you can't look at this and say, this 16-year-old boy was MAGA and we're trying to target right-wing extremism. That isn't the case. That's not what they were trying to do with this kid. They set up a sting, they got this kid in there, and then they turned him into whatever. I don't understand what the end goal of this was.
Right. Can I read another quote from this Intercept?
Sure.
It said, it's clearly a waste of government resources, said Aziz, the law professor. If there was a serious terrorist threat in America, the FBI would not be spending its time entrapping a mentally ill minor. So we look at the way the FBI has, I don't even know how to categorize the FBI anymore. As Trey Gowdy mentioned it years ago, he said this used to be one of the most trusted institutions in American government. Now they are the least trusted, one of the least trusted institutions. And for actions like this, is this person a real terrorist threat? Or, for example, are you maybe directing resources to find terrorism where it's not? And if that's the case, then what are those resources being used for that could have been used for something that was a real threat? And on top of all of these things, is this truly just a great example of the government, almost justifying a way. I don't want to sound super cynical here, but when I find the government acting in this way and they come up with empty hands saying we need more money for programs, and I look at examples like this and saying, this is how you're spending your money. You're hiring a bunch of people to entrap minors with autism to try to paint them as terrorists because you've led them down that road. This is where our money is going. This is how you're trying to act as the FBI. This should be, to me, a huge wake-up call that we have a lot of issues, not only with the FBI, but federal government in general, acting in not the public's best interest.
Yeah, it's kind of unchecked power. Similar situation, just to highlight government misuse of power, administrative state, really stuff like that, is that I have some friends who are in the financial sector, and one of them in particular, who is way, way up in the private sector in finance. And this person informed me that every year or two, the administrative state, and really the president doesn't have anything to do with this. The president probably didn't even know this is going on. They will change the rules of the way you file paperwork for no reason other than that they will then be able to fine you to fund themselves. This is real stuff. And it shouldn't surprise anybody to hear that's going on, but it's the same type of mentality that's used in law enforcement in this instance to basically justify its own existence. Let's create terrorism where there might not have been, instead of trying to convince people. There are great programs with cops, local cops, not FBI cops, where they will find at-risk kids in a community, and they'll try to befriend them ahead of time. And that's great. That's exactly what you should be doing. This is literally the polar exact opposite of a good program. This is a terrible program being used for terrible purposes.
Yeah, maybe like find these kids that might be at risk for it, and rather than keep feeding them the stuff that they need to become a full-blown terrorist, feed them the stuff that they need to start moving away from that.
And there you go.
You don't have to arrest them, just turn them into not terrorists.
Yes.
Like, stop it before it starts.
Yes, exactly.
And behind the scenes, this probably angers me as much if anything else. After they did this, everyone got into a room and they clapped and they probably applauded the agents that did this, and they patted each other on the back, and they probably had a cake and a pizza day to just talk about how great they were for stopping terrorism. They probably look at this as a huge victory. But now that articles like this are out, I want to know how often this happens. I want to know too. Let's say this. Forget on the terrorism side. You know how many agencies have stopped looking for online predators, and that's why there's so many high. There's people like these basically citizen advocacy groups that go out there and look for people trying to meet up with minors for sexual encounters. They don't have to entrap anyone. All they have to say is, hey, I'm a minor. Do you want to meet up for sex? And then the next thing you know, they're sending ding-dong pictures to a undercover citizen or whatever, and they're trying to look at it. And then the police don't even do anything about those things because they say, oh, we don't have the resources to try to find online predators. You'll radicalize a autistic teen into what you would call a terrorist because you've led him down that route, but you won't go out there and try to find, let's say, to catch a predator because it's too embarrassing. You don't have the resources for it. It goes to show you that we're putting money in so many weird areas. It's just all out of whack. We need to reevaluate this.
Yeah,
there's a lot. And we're talking about adults, by the way, that do this sort of thing, not teenagers that are going out meeting these. When we come back, there's another story out of Ireland where they may take a bill that a lot of people are looking too far. And I think it's another reason why we have to really lean into our free speech protections here in the United States and not fall for the traps of maybe voluntarily giving up our free speech in order for quote unquote protections or security. So let's look at that and what's going on in Ireland coming up after the break. I'm Ryan Recker filling in on 97.1 FM Talk.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Hey, this is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking with hypnosis. Hypnosis eliminated my desire for soda and fast food, made me want to exercise, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. My energy level exploded. I went to another session to deal with some other problem foods, and I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband, and he lost weight, and his cholesterol and blood pressure improved. My friend lost 20 pounds her first 2 months.
What are you waiting for? Join Mark Patrick Seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed early bird special, only $49.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings, late day eating binges, boredom eating, stress eating. That's right. Seminars Tuesday, January 30th at the 4 Points by Sheraton St. Louis Fairview Heights in Fairview Heights, and Wednesday, January 31st at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites St. Louis Airport in St. Louis. Weight loss seminar 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar 8 p.m. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Retired or retiring soon? How much money do you need to live comfortably? Retirement Planners of America is here for you. Would you like to have financial peace of mind? Here's how. Step 1. Find out the amount of money you'll need to retire. Step 2. Have a plan to get there. Step 3. Make sure that plan can take advantage of market gains but protect you from market losses. Discover how to do all three with a free consultation at 800-508-6108. That's 800-508-6108.
All investments involve risk, including losses. Past performance does not guarantee future results.
If you need someone you can trust for your eye care, go see the doctors at Ophthalmology Associates. Kim St. Ange here. Doctors Birdie, Malhotra, Brusati, Royer, and Barry are experts in the diagnosis and treatment of diseases of the eye. 314-966-5000 or youridoc.com.
Hey guys, Glover here from my friends at ThrottleNet. So I'm so very proud to have represented the guys at ThrottleNet for all of these years. They are the IT geniuses. George and Mike are the owners. Fantastic guys. They can do all of your IT. They can do a portion of your IT. They have the best Apple support team. Their response time is under 2 minutes. Think about that, under 2 minutes. Something goes sideways with your IT, and they are solving your problem. And they're solving your problem within 2 minutes. Now, let's talk about cybersecurity. Most companies in St. Louis don't have cyber liability insurance. You get hit, you're on the hook, you're probably out of business. With ThrottleNet, if we represent you, we protect you. The first $500,000 that someone hits you for, which isn't going to happen, but if it does, we pay it. $500,000. That's what you're covered for with ThrottleNet. Go to throttlenet.com/DGS for all the information.
The Annie Frey YouTube live chat poll of the day has to do with the one and only Nikki Haley. Will she win in New Hampshire? That's a very simple question. It's just a yes or no, but we'd like to know how many people think she will, how many people think she won't. You can vote in that poll by typing in Annie Frey on your YouTube search engine there. YouTube live chat poll. Will Nikki Haley win in New Hampshire? Yes or no? 144. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
Information with perspective on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk. Everyone is welcome. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
Did you see the sky? I think it means
And welcome back. I'm Ryan Recker filling in. Did you see this one speech, free speech bill in Ireland? It's kind of interesting. So there's a couple of sections to it. It's called the Incitement to Violence or Hatred in Hate Offenses Bill of 2022, which apparently will be getting a vote. And some of the provisions on it says that you can be deemed guilty of an offense through the act of communicating material to the public or a section of the public, meaning that if you're on social media and you say something that may agitate someone else, which they may look at as agitating to someone else, then you're communicating material to the public in a negative way, which you would actually be in violation of this bill and could be criminally charged for it. So here in the United States, we do have free speech, and luckily we do. And there are most people, I guess, rational people that would protect free speech to make sure we are protected so the government can't prosecute you for this exact same thing. Now, in Ireland and in other countries, England and Canada and ways, you don't have those same protections. In fact, you could say something that is looked at as so terrible, horrific, like in Canada, if you say something like there's such things as male and female genes, it's looked at as hatred towards the LGBTQ community, and you could be in violation of hate speech and could be criminally prosecuted by the government that way. Or, same thing in England or some of these other places, you can say things that may be looked at as derogatory towards a minority group. In this case, hate to keep using LGBTQ as an example, but this seems to be where a lot of the prosecution stems from. You could be a comedian inside of a comedy house on stage telling jokes, and if someone looks at one of your jokes as offensive, even in the context of you doing stand-up, then you can be prosecuted like you see in Canada happening. So Ireland has something very similar, except it extends even further. If you post something on social media, the mere idea that you shared content that would aggravate someone else, you could be liable for that. Or let's say you even look at content on a computer and not even share it publicly. The fact that you might have it on your computer stored somewhere that you logged this or in the background like a cookie, that you looked at something that may be deemed offensive would actually violate this law the way it's written. So that's why the Free Speech Ireland organization's out there, and they're saying, we got to stop this bill. I think this is another example of why it's so important to defend free speech in the United States, so we don't have to try to fight the freedom of ideas and expression here in the United States based on what some people may relatively look at as offensive.
Yeah, these are extremely dangerous laws because they exist to create a slippery slope. I mean, that's their purpose, is to not defend people right where they're at. It's so that the government can get involved and control speech.
Well, to me, it's just interesting. Like, all of these are predicated under the idea of, hey, we're going to protect somebody's feelings. Like, you have a legal right to not have your feelings hurt. And it's so dangerous. And what that does is, if you allow that as a citizen, if you allow that to happen, then like Ryan said, it opens the door for the government to come in and determine, because you do, if you're going to make hate speech laws, if you're going to outlaw quote unquote hate speech, then you have to define what hate speech is, or you need somebody to be the arbiter of what hate speech is. And that just gives power to the government to go and stretch that limit and stretch that limit and stretch that limit until they can define it in a way that serves them. Like, I don't understand why people aren't more skeptical of their government. Very skeptical. Everybody, very skeptical of the other side, of the other party, but they're never skeptical of their own party. And I think it's just because whatever their party is planning at the time hasn't come back to bite them. It hasn't been used against them. And I say it hasn't been used against you yet. They will use it against you if they think that it will benefit their own cause. Be very skeptical of the government.
Right. And I gotta say, and I gotta point this out too. Let's just use the hypothetical here. Like, let's say these sort of laws are in place. And it's kind of topical in a way. We're talking about presidential immunity here in the United States. So let's say, hypothetically, you're in a country where this doesn't exist. Free speech is limited in certain ways, and it's relative to the person that may have had their feelings hurt. So let's say we translated this to the United States, and let's say Donald Trump goes to the March for Life rally, and he says he's pro-life, and he stands with people that are pro-life. Now, those on the left and those pro-abortion would look at that and say he hates women, obviously, because he doesn't want them to have rights. So I'm going to want to see you charged because you just discriminated against women for not being pro-abortion. Would there be anything that would stop someone from taking a stance on any controversial topic that wouldn't be able to use that as a way then to try to prosecute the people that disagree with them? I don't think there would be anything stopping them. And I think it just depends on how much resources you have to take it as far as you can in the courts. And I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of what we're seeing here in the United States, not necessarily on free speech, but in other aspects of life. We've seen this weaponization of the courts, and then you're giving the courts and the government the fuel to allow them to take advantage of you. And that's why, free speech or not, you can look at this in a lot of other protections of the Constitution. If you start to erode them, then that's exactly the route you go down.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important for us on the right, I would say. I would love to see liberals, classical liberals, do this too, or the left. They just don't. But it's important for us to defend causes we disagree with and their right to say it. Not that you have to defend the cause itself, but their right to be able to say those things has to be defended. That's where organizations like the ACLU used to be terrific. I would disagree with a lot of the things they would defend, but they were defending them on the grounds that they had the right to do
right.
it.
Let's try these things in the court of public opinion where they belong, and not in the legal court, not in a court of law. We want like, let's have a healthy debate. Let's discuss these things. Let's put down bad ideas and raise up good ideas. But we don't need to be throwing people in jail or fining them for saying offensive things.
Prosecuting them. Exactly. I mean, one of the great examples right now of that happening is in pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas terrorist supporters in the United States. As long as you're not advocating for violence, you have the right to do that. We can disagree with what you're saying all day and do. But you have the right to be able to do that protest. We're pointing out a lot of times that college campuses are hypocritical with those rights.
Sure.
Like right now, they'll be saying, oh, we support free speech rights. But in the case of somebody on the right saying something, they don't support free speech. So there's hypocrisy there. But in general, the principle stands and should stand that they have the right to say those things.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, say it loud, say it proud, so we know who you are, and we can make our decisions on who you are based on what you say. I don't want to force some of these things into the dark underground where they can only be whispered in corners. That's how bad ideas grow. Bring them out here, and we'll have a discussion, and we will beat you with better ideas.
We're going to just clip that and have the sentence, and we will beat you, and then you can cut the rest of what Brad says. And we can just use that clip.
Easier.
So we can stop the editing after it. And if you want to see some examples of this happening around the world, how many times have you been sitting in a church service and you hear about missionary work in these different countries where they have to hide their services because the government could come in based on their Christian beliefs and just swoop and take them and imprison them for their beliefs? Because a lot of these predominantly Muslim countries do not allow for that. And they do persecute you based on, well, we're looking at religious freedom, but I guess it also extends into freedom of speech in that way, to assemble and be able to profess your faith in a way that is vocal in front of other people. So, yeah, I think a lot of people would tend to agree here in the United States that we want to make sure we have the ability to express ourselves. But you're right, it goes as far as when someone says something pretty terrible based relative to what you believe, then they stop believing that free speech is a thing. And that's why I think we have to be almost constitutional absolutionists. Absolutionists. I'm saying that word wrong, but that's why you really have to look at all these different aspects of the Constitution and really stand by them, and to say that the government, if given the opportunity to violate your rights, they will. And that's why these things protect you, so you do not have these God-given rights violated from you. And I think that's why the founding fathers, through their wisdom, worded things in a certain way to make sure, even though times may change, that you still have these protections from the government so they can't take advantage of you. There was another story I wanted to bring up. This isn't really a free speech thing per se, but I guess it could be. Did you see that the U.S. Federal Highway Administration says that, hey, different states that put these funny electronic signs up on the freeways, you got to stop doing that. You got to stop being so silly with these freeway signs. You need to be just absolutely simple, direct, and clear in your messaging. When there's a big snowstorm, don't put up something like, okay, Elsa, you can stop with the ice now, or whatever. They want to make sure that there is a blanket regulation across the United States that you don't do anything cute when it comes to roadway signs. And for example, in Massachusetts, they said, instead of use your blinker, it's use ya blinka, because you're in Massachusetts, and that's kind of how the way people talk. They kind of do, like, they put these puns, they may put funny things up on the signs. Well, apparently on the federal side, they said it's no joke. Feds are banning humorous electronic messages on highways. Do you think that the feds, they just find ways to take the fun out of everything in some ways?
Kind of. I don't.
Yeah,
I wish those signs just weren't there. I just get bothered by the fact that the signs exist. Once in a while, they're helpful if it's telling you coming up, oh, hey, this exit's going to be closed in the next couple of days.
Heavy
that kind
traffic
of thing.
ahead.
Yeah.
Consider alternate routes, that sort of thing.
Aside from that, I'm like, stop telling me to buckle up and stuff. I understand that is what I'm supposed to do. I don't need the reminder.
Okay, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, sign.
I want a sign like in St. Louis. Let's say you're driving down 70 and you're getting close to downtown. I want the sign to say, 7 people were shot here over the past 6 months. Like, I want to know what I'm getting into. Like, I want them to put crime statistics on these signs so I know which exits not to get off on. Wouldn't that be helpful?
I would deride the idea that the signs would start to be used for messaging outside of what they're for.
You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-652-5241 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-652-5241. That's 800-652-5241. What do you have to lose? Call 800-652-5241. Again, 800-652-5241.
I hate winter, but as a kid I used to love it snowing, and my dog, when it snows, he's just like me being a little Hoosier. When it snows, we wake up and we would just run outside. We didn't care what we had on and just run around and build snowmen, roll around in the snow. He does the exact same thing. He can't build snowmen. He wants to do snow angels. But if you can picture this, he's a big German Shepherd, all right? He's good size. But he's got little legs and little arms. He doesn't know he's a dog, but he wants to make snow angels, so he tries his best. And he just ends up just rolling around in circles for the longest time. You got to love it. With that being said, keep the calls coming. One easy number, Missouri and Illinois. It is 314-293-2600. That's Bart Inman, 314-293-2600. And BartInman.com. That is a B for Bart. How do I say? Bart with a B, Inman with an I.
This is an announcement to all United States vehicle owners who own a 2003 or newer vehicle with a manufacturer's warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all. With a struggling economy and the cost of living on the rise, Endurance is now offering an affordable, low-cost vehicle coverage plan to the general public. As of today, you could be one of millions of drivers that now may qualify to have your vehicle protected under this coverage and have all future covered auto repairs paid directly to the repair shop for you. You pick your plan. You pick your deductible. You even pick the repair shop. Roadside service, towing, and rental coverage is included. Get your vehicle protected now and save your wallet from costly vehicle repairs. A toll-free number has been established for you to call for your free 5-minute quote and to see if you qualify. The number to call is 800-291-1017. 800-291-1017. Again, that's 800-291-1017. Coverage, deductibles, and claims may vary. For details, go to endurancewarranty.com.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Keeping it cloudy going through the afternoon. A couple of snow flurries from time to time, and 35 for the high. Tonight, light snow, windy and cold. An Arctic cold front arriving. 12 for the low. The wind chill -5. Less than an inch accumulation of light snow, but that's enough to slick the roads up. Friday, a mix of clouds and sunshine, windy and cold. 15 on Friday. The wind chill -10. Cold times right through the weekend. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Retirement Advisory Group is there to make sure that your retirement is protected. They want to make sure that you know that as you are approaching retirement, it's right around the corner, that you are going to have a worry-free retirement. Reach out to Thomas Helbig and make sure that you are taken care of. Tuesday, January 30th, the next Protecting Your Retirement educational event at the Frontenac Hilton. These events start at 6:30 p.m., but I'm going to be there at 6 p.m. along with my friends Mark Cox from the morning show here on 97.1 FM Talk and Mark Reardon, who comes on here after I get done each day. We are all going to be there from about 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. when the event starts, and we're going to get the opportunity to meet you. I'm looking forward to that, so please make sure that you sign up and reserve your spot now. It's the Protecting Your Retirement educational event, Tuesday, January 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the Frontenac Hilton. Seating is limited. The event is free. You can go online right now to sign up. Make sure you mention the Annie Frey Show when you do, online at retirementkey.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. RAMP.com/free.
Gain peace of mind that your flooring and carpet installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's Flooring Outlet. They give all their clients attentive personal service, even bring toys for the kids of the household. It's a family-owned and operated business for 25 plus years. They make sure you make the right choice for your home. So if you have carpets or hard floors, you're going to be happy for years to come. 3 convenient locations in St. Charles County, 116 Main Street, in Old Town St. Peters at Mid-Rivers and Highway 70, in West County on Olive, and the store in Darden Prairie. Michael's Flooring Outlet, igotfloor.com.
Can't wait for weeks to get your tax refund? Then don't. At Jackson Hewitt, get money today if you're approved for a no-fee refund advance loan on a prepaid card. Book today at jacksonhewitt.com. No-fee refund advanced offered to eligible clients. Application required. Loans by Republic Bank. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
The people have spoken. I want to thank you, St. Louis, for voting Onder Law 2023's best St. Louis law firm.
When you're injured, call Onder Law at 314 or 618-9000000.
The voice for hardworking, free-thinking Americans.
St. Louis is home for conservative talk.
You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk. The Annie Frey Show YouTube live chat poll of the day is sponsored by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
And welcome back. I'm Ryan Ricker, filling in here for Annie Frey. One more hour of the show, and I'm looking through some of the different stories that are starting to really take shape. And there's this one story that keeps coming up about. I just read the headline: cocaine residue found on Hunter Biden's gun pouch in 2018 cases. Prosecutors are arguing that there's no reason to dismiss this case. There's plenty of evidence that he broke a pretty serious law, not only in the way that he disposed of guns in the past, but being a known drug user, continued to have use and access to them. But when I read that headline, tell me if I'm wrong for thinking this. If you were to go through most of Hunter Biden's possessions, how much cocaine residue would you find?
Yeah, I think
Like
I'd
on
start
everything?
with his fingernails.
I would say 90% of what he owns has cocaine residue on it.
Just the pinky nail that's really long.
You know what, though? That in his defense, you get a little cocaine on your guns every now and then.
It happens.
You know what? Everybody can identify with that.
All right, Scarface over here. It's but that's the problem, I think. And I think Hans brought this up a couple of weeks ago, essentially saying that him being in contempt of Congress would essentially violate his bond, which means that he should, if a good judge would look at that, if it was anyone else, they would revoke the bond and put him in holding, waiting for this trial. So I know that he's getting special treatment because none of that would ever happen to Hunter Biden, and I don't know if it would be the right thing to do it might not be the right thing to do for the president of the United States' son, because it would be looked at as a huge problem. But nonetheless, it goes to show you he is getting special treatment. Special treatment would be when the prosecutors and the defense came together and said, you know what, we're going to slap him on the wrist and give him immunity from all charges in the future. That is insane. And luckily, a judge tossed out that plea deal. But so you got to really make sure you're doing this by the book. And if you're doing this by the book, there needs to be more attention put into this. And I'm sure the prosecution has a lot more on him that is not being allowed to bring forward, mostly by probably federal pressures that stop them from doing so, because he is Hunter Biden. And they're still doing a documentary on him too right now. That's got to be pretty terrible. Let's look at this one story in the Post-Dispatch. So a woman, this is kind of a weird story to begin with. Several landlords accused of illegally renting out condemned properties in South St. Louis. This is quite a whopper of a story. So almost 40 condemned homes in South St. Louis have been rented out to people with drug and mental illness, drug addictions and mental illness, according to a lawsuit that was filed by the city. This is a whole different level of slum landlord, honestly. Mm-hmm. This is, you are really taking advantage of vulnerable people, and you're probably doing this under the guise of I'm helping them when no one else would. I'm guessing that's what one of their defenses will be. But 5 associates of Dara Daughtry in nearly a dozen businesses registered to their names are named in a lawsuit which accuses the landlords of continuing to rent out properties that have been boarded up and declared a nuisance by city officials. Some of them lacked electricity and running water. This is just, to me, peak disgusting when it comes to landlord predatory behavior.
Okay.
Have you seen the story?
No, I haven't, but I'm trying to get the picture here. So when you initially read it, I thought what you're saying was that somebody who didn't own these properties was just coming along and saying, well, that's mine. I'll let you rent it from me. But that's not. You're saying this is somebody who does own these properties, but they're condemned and they're in terrible condition, and they should not have somebody living in them, and they're continuing to rent them out.
Yes, so that's what it looks like. Yeah, and I don't know if that's the case because there's so many different properties. I think that's the case with all of them. So not to say what you're describing doesn't happen. That seems to be fraudsters acting in a bad way, as essentially, claiming something that's not theirs, collecting money, and then disappearing or becoming untraceable after that happens. That seems to happen a fair amount when it comes to the rental properties. They'll post something up online. They'll claim to be the owner of this property. They'll say, okay, we need a deposit because, we're going to rent this out. So if you really want to see it. And in the mad rush of trying to find a place to live, a lot of times people from out of town trying to move in say, okay, fine, I don't want to lose this place. I'll put the money down. Well, then they'll show up and then they'll find the place was actually not theirs to begin with. The money that they gave is gone forever. That happens all the time, apparently. But this is different. This is literally condemned locations that are boarded up with probably markers from the city and documentation stapled or nailed to the front board that was once the door or window, and telling them that this is not suitable for humans to live in. You see this a lot of times too, abandoned buildings that are just taken over by drug addicts because they have no other place to go. And then if you look through the window, it's basically they're starting fires inside, and there's a bunch of needles and human feces laying around, just a bunch of junk. But it's not someone that's charging them to do that. It's just essentially homeless found a place to go where the police will essentially leave them alone until there's enough evidence, or at least there's enough complaints against them. This is actually people charging them to live in these conditions. That is, pretty lousy, all things considered. And it goes to show you that we do have a lot of problems when it comes to landlord-tenant issues, and we do have a lot of issues when it comes to empty, vacated buildings in the city of St. Louis that probably should be torn down to begin with.
Yeah, I'm just like, there's laws against this, right? That I don't understand how somebody can just, like you were saying, some of these houses, like the electricity and the plumbing doesn't work. They don't have running water. Yeah. How you can feel good about yourself about renting that out. But, I've never owned or rented property, or rented out property that I owned, I should say. I don't understand what kind of person could do this. It goes back to like you were saying, you have to be such a disgusting, horrible individual to do this, that you can't afford to put money in it. Like, what is a property owner responsible for in a rental situation of keeping up on the property?
Well, I can answer that because I have rental properties. So I'll say first, to let a place get so bad that it gets condemned, you have to be just completely negligent of your own investment. That's what surprises
that's
me,
true.
because this is your property. You're letting it go so devalued that basically, and I don't know what the situation here, but for me, that would have meant that I would have been lazy, and not just for a short time, for a long time. Because if you don't check on your tenants at all, because look, tenants can destroy a place.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But for you to never, ever check, and I've met landlords who've done this. They just never, as long as the checks are clearing, they never check on their place, which I cannot do. And maybe it's when you get so big, you have so many of them, you can't keep up with them. But to me, if this is your investment, you're just negligent and lazy for letting it get to that point. Because if you're doing even every 3-year walkthroughs, you're going to see if there's a major problem, and you're going to address it, because if you don't, you're going to lose money. So I don't understand why they would do that.
I'll give you a couple of scenarios that I think could happen. Number one, they probably have a home that was repossessed because of all the problems, and the current homeowner couldn't fix them. You goes through an auction, someone buys it super cheap because they have the intention of, if they were able to fix it up, then they would be able to either sell the property for a large profit or rent the property out. But some people buy it up and then they say, well, you know what? We're just going to rent it as is, as in this is a quick money grab for them. It could be an instance where sometimes these slum landlords will get these properties, but they won't buy insurance for them. So something catastrophic happens and they'll be like, well, I guess we're just going to have to leave it because I'm not paying for a new roof, or I'm not going to fix where the fire was, or that foundation's cracked halfway down. Who cares? Something could happen where they just become so negligent in it, or they don't have the insurance to fix something that insurance normally would fix, that they just keep going down the route. And their mindset is, rentals are so high right now. People are paying $1,500 for something like this. If we charge them $500, they'll be able to look past the giant leak in the roof, or they'll be able to look past that the windows are boarded up because they're all cracked and destroyed, or they'll be able to look past that there's no heater water, because otherwise they're going to be living in a porta-john downtown, because there's no place for them in the homeless shelters right now. And we're not going to ask questions when they bring all their druggie friends in and start a fire in a barrel and start shooting up and then, hunching over because they're off the street and no one's going to see them inside of this building. That's the type of, I think, mindset that goes on. People look at it as a cheap way to exploit these vulnerable people, either the homeless or drug addicts or mentally ill people. And they look at it as, for the most part, very little impunity. There's nothing that's going to happen to them because, well, nothing has happened to landlords doing this in the past until a lawsuit like this happens. It looks like, for the most part, the city should have taken this more seriously earlier than this, because there's a lot of abandoned properties and there's a lot of this going on. I don't know if it's always a landlord taking advantage of these vulnerable people, but in a lot of cases, there are people that are sympathetic and allow this to happen on their properties. The neighbors are the ones that normally bring it up because they don't want to live by it or have to walk by a property or have the threat of their kids confronted by one of these, meth heads. And it seems like even when the neighbors bring up the problem, the police do nothing or the city does nothing. So it's allowed to happen, and they probably look at it as a way that it's probably one of those things where they can keep on the gravy train until eventually someone stops them, and it looks like the city has finally done one thing at least.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right about how this would happen. It's probably somebody who bought a property very, very cheap, probably a number of years ago too, not recently, and hasn't kept up with it because they thought, you know what, this is a piece of crap property anyway. I'm not going to put any money into it. I'm just looking at return. If I can just keep renting it. But then once the city steps in and says, this is condemned, people can't live here, then you are breaking the law and you're doing something stupid. I don't think they're looking at this and going, oh, we're trying to help poor people or we're trying to hurt poor people. They're looking at purely dollars and cents. This is a property right now that I own, that I paid X amount for. I'm making $0 on it. If I can keep renting it, I will be making X amount on it. Therefore, I need to get some sort of return on my investment. You just can't do it when you don't have a living habitat. That's the problem, is that you didn't keep up with it enough. Even the bare basics, which is all you have to do for a lot of these really low end places, just do the bare basics. You don't have to have wonderful brand new countertops. You just have to have it to where your pipes aren't freezing.
Right.
You have water and you have electricity.
You flip the switch, people don't get electrocuted, and it doesn't start a fire.
That's all
and you
gotta
don't fall through the baseboard into the basement like Home Alone 2 when they're renovating that one place.
Right.
And, there were schemes like, let me give you an example of one that happened here in Detroit where it would go to the land bank and essentially there'd be a home that would be up for auction. And there was a huge scandal that caused I guess, prosecutors to step in because there were elected officials that were looking at what would have been quote unquote deal properties. And then they were the ones that would win every time, and then they would flip and resell some of these homes over and over again. They stacked the deck so that they would be the only ones in possession of the good properties that were going through the land bank. And they also found that they were repossessing these homes at an incredibly large rate after people started to fix them up under minor circumstances that normally you would say you would normally work with the city in order to like fix the problem. Like, for example, sometimes you get these dirt cheap properties that needed a lot of work in them, and they would say, well, you have a year or 2 years to fix it up and then it's yours. So let's say people start working on them and then they would find a minor code violation after a year and they'd say, well, I guess it's ours again. And all of the work the person put in would then essentially be lost for nothing. And then someone else from a government standpoint that was in authority would be able to buy it dirt cheap and then take it over and then reflip it for something. And we saw that happening in Detroit a lot of times. And I'm sure it happens in other cities too. There's people taking advantage of their position. They know what some of these investment deals are, much like Congress knows how to buy stocks. You know what I mean? The Nancy Pelosi's of the world, kind of insider trading deal. But in this case, it's rental or real estate properties. It doesn't surprise me, though, that people would take advantage of a situation where there's cheap properties, promise to fix them up, and then this is the way they act to it, except for in St. Louis. There's so many abandoned properties all around. Not only is it a threat for drug addicts or whoever else to move in, it's also fire threats. We saw that just a couple of summers ago where there was a big fire. Firefighters go in trying to see if there's anyone inside, and a firefighter dies because they're battling a fire that was set by a drug addict inside of one of these buildings. And the firefighters are doing their duty, but these buildings are so neglected that they fall so quickly that it becomes a risk and a problem for those that are fighting the fires. We got so many of these. And, how many times has the city of St. Louis said they're going to go in and they're going to start cleaning this up and they're going to start beautifying the city so we don't see so many abandoned buildings? But it's the same number. You go on their website and you kind of do the abandoned building tracker and it keeps growing, not getting better. Like, people don't want to take over these garbage properties. Except the ones that would do this.
That's not the city's job to do that. That's why you need private investment to come in. And this is a problem because it just kind of circles the drain. Once it starts, a house gets condemned on one block. Well, then the house next door to its value goes down, and the whole street starts, the property value goes down on the whole street. Well, then people can't keep up, and the whole street starts to fade.
Right.
That's why when people talk about, and it's so stupid and it angers me so much, not that this really affects me directly, but when people rail against gentrification.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that.
When a city has an area that starts to become cool again, and people start to come from outside with money in, we go, oh, that's a cool area now. I'm going to invest some money in it. That's a good thing for your city. That is a really good thing.
It's a good thing for your city, but then the residents that live in that area are at a certain level of income that they can't afford. Because when people come in and start investing, that drives the prices up. Of renting and all that stuff, and then those people can't afford where they used to live. I understand their heartbreak.
Yeah, but guess what? If you own property right next to where that's happening,
that's good.
The value of your place goes up. That's good.
Right, and then the downside is like, well, if you don't embrace that influx of cash, then like what you're saying, the circle, the drain, now your house is worth nothing, and you don't have a house because it fell down within itself because nobody was able to fix it or keep it nice.
Yeah, I want to go back to some Wiggins that you mentioned there, and I don't know if maybe we're looking at this differently. I think the city does have an obligation when it comes to these abandoned homes, because if they own the property, I think they do have an obligation either to demolish it or get rid of it. It doesn't have to be at the hands of a private entity. If you are the city of St. Louis and you are in possession of that property and you don't know what to do with it, then you do have an obligation to do something to make it attractive for someone else to take it over.
Okay, I'll actually agree with you on that. I'm just saying it's not the city's job to really come into neighborhoods and take them over and make them better. When they're forced to take over a property because of delinquent taxes or something like that, then it would be in their best interest to turn that property into something that's generating income for even themselves, or they could sell it.
Yeah, go in, inspect the property. Can this building be saved? Yes. Auction it off as is. Can this building be saved? No. demolish the building, then auction off the plot to and then you get the private funds in there and it starts going again. But can
I say, this is where the city should start. Let me just say this, because you can go online and you can look at a map at all the buildings, the homes, private homes that are owned by the city of St. Louis right now. What I would do is look at every school on that map, do a 3-mile radius around that school. If there's any abandoned homes that are derelict in there that the city owns, you start there, because there's no reason kids should be walking to school in front of these crack dens that are being used this way. And then, you know what? See how much money that costs, and then keep expanding and extending it out and making it more attractive, where people can go and, maybe start these communities without the worry that a city-owned property that you're not selling, allowing to sit there, is going to become a drug house, and you're going to lose every investment in that home you just built or that home you just renovated in the city of St. Louis.
I mean, Ryan, what you're talking about is responsible government and responsible people running government, because that's the kind of creative solutions that you elect officials to do. And yet we have a city right here that the focus is trying to find funds to make sure that people can drive a certain distance to get abortions. These are the kind of things that they focus on, instead of actually making their citizens' lives better through things like that. And some of that stuff actually is the government's responsibility. As much as I don't want big government, the government has to take over in certain situations where there's delinquent taxes. There's no other option.
You're not an anarchist.
Exactly.
When we come back from the break, there's a few other things I want to get to. We only have the rest of the hour before Mark Reardon, but I saw this one story of a passenger trapped in an airplane bathroom. That sounds so miserable. There's so many of these flight issues. If the doors aren't flying off of these planes, now they can't even get the door open, and you're stuck on the throne for the entire flight. Sounds miserable. There's also some video game stories in there, and I know Brad plays video games, but much like the CDs and DVDs, it seems like everything's going to digital. One of the heads of a major video game company said, get comfortable with not owning video games. So I wanted to bring that up. Artificial intelligence. We got a lot to get to on the show still here. I'm Brian Recker, filling in. Don't go anywhere on 97.1 FM Talk.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
I'm embarrassed to say this. I've been using deodorant on my armpits for 30 years, and anytime I noticed odor anywhere else, I thought I needed another shower, I wasn't clean, or I felt like there was something wrong with me. And then my gynecologist told me about Lumi. It's a whole body deodorant for pits, feet, and privates that controls odor anywhere and everywhere on your body. Since Lumi, I never have to worry about body odor ever again, anywhere on my body. And that reassurance is worth every penny.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code PENNY and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code PENNY. LUMEdeodorant.com, code PENNY for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. Love it or return it for free. That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code PENNY. LUMEdeodorant.com, code PENNY. That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code PENNY.
So, you got a new gadget over the holidays. Don't forget to listen to your favorite station on Odyssey. Unwrapped a new Amazon Echo or Google Home? Be sure to tell your smart speaker to play your favorite station. Received a new Sonos speaker? Check on Odyssey on the Sonos app for access to hundreds of stations. Got a new phone? Don't forget that the Odyssey app is the only way you can jump to your favorite show with Rewind. No matter what you received this year, listen to your favorites with Odyssey. Download the free Odyssey app today. AUDACY.
Hey, Mark Cox here. I recently learned something new from St. Louis real estate expert Gloria Liu of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She told me the number of all-cash home sales is at the highest level since 2011. Makes sense. Gloria knows that today home sellers have options outside of a real estate agent or an auction company, and that a cash offer may be the best solution. Unlike a local investor or a real estate agent that gives you just one option, Gloria Liu's able to provide multiple cash offers quickly by visiting her website. You also get a guaranteed offer from one of her motivated buyers in waiting. So if you'd like to receive multiple cash offers on your home quickly, Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. That's GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. You can sell as is without having to make any costly repair and choose your closing date. Get multiple cash offers for your home today at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. That's GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is proud to support Greater St. Louis Honor Flight. Sign your veteran up for the Honor Flight today at gsLHonorFlight.org. And for heating services, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Odyssey.com is a universe of audio, and it's where you can download the app to stream 97.1 FM Talk. The Odyssey app. Download it today and stream anytime from anywhere.
Where St. Louis comes to talk.
97.1 FM Talk.
Bring it.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show.
What?
Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
You know, no one's ever invited me to go to Funky Town, and no one's ever asked me to get jiggy with them. What does that mean? Does that mean anything?
Nobody's asked you to take them to Funky Town
It's
either?
an exclusive club, Ryan. It's an exclusive club.
What am I missing out on? What goes on in Funky Town, and what goes on when you're getting jiggy?
Well, the first rule of Funky Town is you don't talk about Funky Town.
Yeah, it's true. And you can't get jiggy unless you're in Funky Town, so it's kind of exclusive.
Oh, maybe that's why. So once you get there, they're like, okay, there's a street sign that says to the right, jiggy with it land, and then to the left is where the restaurants and bathrooms are.
Yeah,
basically.
I can't confirm that, but
Does Funky Town share a border with Wiggins, America?
No, we're mostly an island.
Good. There's a couple of stories I wanted to get to, and they're both, I don't know, kind of sex stories. Do you mind if we bring them up here?
Okay.
I hate talking about these kind of things. I get real uncomfortable.
So Newsweek had the story. What's up with this Kentucky Republican that wanted to amend the state law so they can have sex with their first cousin? What was up with it?
Wait, really?
So here's Newsweek story.
That's illegal in Kentucky?
Oh boy, Brad. A Kentucky Republican introduced legislation that would amend the state's law so a person who had sex with their first cousin would no longer be criminally liable for incest before withdrawing it and claiming an error was made during the drafting process. So essentially, it was against the law. It's considered incest, sex with a first cousin. But when he drafted it, it took that off the table of a definition of what would constitute incest. So when that was put in there, they said, wait a minute. And then apparently he changed that pretty quickly. What's up with that?
This is why I would like to be a lawmaker, is to stand up in those moments and just be like, we can still have sex with our second cousins, though, right?
Isn't that what Shelbyville was made in The Simpsons? Essentially, there's Springfield where the Simpsons live, and then there was a split off.
Familiar. Yeah, there was something rattling in my brain that said that it was like a comedic something where somebody stands up and goes, and then we can marry our cousins. I thought maybe that's what that was. I think you're right.
Okay, the other sex story comes from the Pope. So he's out there and he's saying sexual pleasure is a gift from God, but avoid porn. Pope Francis advising the Catholics now. Can I ask you just something? If you attend church services, does that ever come up from the pulpit where they talk about sex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. It does. It mostly about the damaging nature of pornography when it comes to marriage, couples, people, young men, young women, things like that. I normally hear it in that context, but do you hear it as a sexual gift from God? Like, do you ever hear it in that context at church?
Actually, yes, we do.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Provided you stay within the confines of marriage. Yeah. Yeah.
So how is that in context? Like, how does that come up? Is it a special?
I think they talk about it a little bit jokingly usually, but they talk about it being a good thing between a man and wife. And I had a preacher for a long time who would refer to going home on the weekends and doing chore play, as in, like, hey, I'm gonna do a bunch of chores here with the intention that maybe this leads to something later tonight. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it leads to a larger point, which is that these are good things within a marriage.
Yeah. I mean, Song of Solomon, the whole book is about a healthy sexual relationship. What the Bible prescribes as a healthy sexual relationship. And then you read it and you go, whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was in there. I mean, you got to get through some of the allegory, but then you read it, it's like, oh, holy cow. So,
yeah.
But I mean, our church talks about it. I mean, it's a part of life. It's something God created. It's something that should be discussed. I mean, we talk about everything else under the sun and what the Bible has to say on it. Why not that? Why not speak on that? But
that's interesting. I found, at least when I go to church, it's normally brought up in context of things that separate you from God, when it talks about lust, pornography, things like that. And it's almost put in those contexts. It's not necessarily like a marriage session. So to see the Pope bring it up, it made me wonder, because I guess the Pope and the Catholics are in some kind of, I guess some of the bishops had some issues, and there's some sort of controversy as of late in some of the writings that were out there. So they wanted to go and, I guess, better clarify the Catholic Church's stance on this sort of thing.
Historically, I thought that the Catholic Church's view on sex was, it is mainly for procreation. It's not necessarily a recreational thing, but it's a procreation thing. That is the purpose, and that's what you're doing. So the Pope saying this is, like, it's kind of revolutionary for the Catholic Church. If my memory
He probably said it
serves
in Latin too,
yeah.
Which makes it even more impressive, because no one understood what he was saying at the time, I'm guessing.
This is great that he's addressing it. That's great.
So, okay, you're like, would you high five the Pope after a sermon? Like, all right, thanks, man.
I don't know. I might kiss his ring. You know what, though? This is something that, I mean, Brad's kind of saying this already, but this is something that the culture has completely co-opted, partially because Christians were not willing to talk about it. And so we have done a terrible disservice, and I say we as in the body of Christ, not like we were alive during the Cultural Revolution. But Christians were not talking about sex at all, and they let the culture kind of dictate what was right and wrong. And it was like, you keep it behind closed doors. You kind of hush. We know it's there, but we're not going to address it really at all. And at least my church, and I think a lot of other churches too, have said, that was a huge mistake. We need to be talking about sex. We need to be talking about things that were considered taboo, because that's what we're supposed to do. I mean, it's not as if the Bible shies away from them, so why would we?
I don't know. The only time I think it's been brought up in the church that I've been to is when it was specifically a special service for married couples. Like it was almost like, okay, this is something that we're going to do, but we're going to let the kids stay out of this one, essentially.
Yeah.
When this is a message for married people.
Yeah. Whenever my church talks about it, it's definitely like, okay, you probably will want to take your kids out of here. At least we give you fair enough warning to make the necessary adjustments, because it does have to be an age appropriate conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's great, Ryan. I think that's not a wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
When we talk about talking about these things at church, I don't think it necessarily has to be from the stage, from the pulpit. It can be in small groups. It can be in men's groups, women's groups. It can be in marriage retreat things like you're talking about.
We talk about it at the youth group because this is something that the kids are going to face. I mean, of course, like I said, it's age appropriate, and we set the boundaries. We say this is what God has created. This is where it's acceptable. This is where it's not. And it's a good thing within these confines only, and here are the dangers if you get out of those confines. So what you're trying to do is not set a stigma about it. I mean, it is a gift from God, but again, it's like all gifts from God. It has boundaries in any, you don't want to pervert it in any way.
Yeah, and I say this mostly not to be controversial, but I am kind of serious. where were they in the 60s and 70s when these priests were abusing these kids? And why couldn't this message been directed towards their own when it came to Catholics? Why couldn't this came out earlier for them to, really hit home what they were doing was wrong and definitely unbiblical? But then we saw the abuses of the Catholic Church come out decades after, and there's virtually no prosecution for those because a lot of them are either dead or gone, or too senile because they've aged out, and eventually now they're looking at repercussions after there is no repercussions for it.
Yeah, or past the statute of limitations too.
Past the statute of limitations. Yes.
No, this is a great example though of keeping things in the light rather than in the dark. I mean, the more you bring these things into the light, the more you're willing to discuss them, the better it is for everybody, because nobody's going to be perfect on any issue, but this issue in particular.
Like they were scared of the stigma of what would happen if people found out priests were doing this, so they tried to hide it. But then you add more stigma to that rather than making yourself out to be what you're preaching to be and saying, hey, this is what happened, this is wrong, this is the steps we've taken to address that. This person will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. They'll be defrocked, all of that stuff, and they're gone, excommunicated. It gives you credibility to say, hey, we are cleaning our own house. When you don't do that, it gives everybody license to come after you.
They weren't excommunicated in a lot of cases.
No, they
were removed
incorrectly.
They have gotten there recently.
Yes.
But it took them too long.
Yeah.
So it's
I think 50 years or whatever.
Yeah, right. I mean, it took way too long. So I think within the last 15 to 20 years, the hierarchy of the Catholic Church has very much addressed these things, and they are doing the right steps now. But I mean, it's taken too long. It took too long.
Yeah, I would say just in recent years, in the last 5 years, I mean, it's very few and far between, but it seems like there's a lot of cooperation today when there wasn't in the past. And when you start to look at some of these different records that were taken by these dioceses, when you open up the books and things that were sitting there through this whole time, it makes you wonder, the pressures of them to open it up now, if they could have just came forward and did the right thing then. And all these people that are here living with the abuses are afraid to talk about it in a lot of ways because, it's just sad. Who would have thought that this is where this conversation would go? 2 sex topics. Man, I'll tell you what, this show has gone all over the place today. I always have a good feeling going into these shows coming in, but I never know where the show's going to go. It's one of those random things of when I get to fill in here today. You want to do the poll results when we come back after the break? Some of these other things that we're facing here.
We will.
I think it's Nikki Haley. We'll do that. One more segment left. I also want to talk about video games. I want to talk about AI. And some of the other things. I had so many different topics I put into the rundown here today. I didn't even get a chance to bring up. Let's try to hit as many of them as we can before we wrap up. I'm Ryan Recker, filling in for Andy Frey. Don't go anywhere on 97.1 FM Talk.
What? On your mark, ready, set, let's go.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
That's it, now honey, come ride. TKNY, all up in my eye. You got a Prada bag with a lot of stuff in it. Give it to your friend, let's spin.
If you're hired, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
At Lakeside Renovation and Design, our secret sauce isn't just the tools we use or the materials we choose. It's our people. We're not just builders. We're local craftsmen, highly skilled in our trades. Our team takes immense pride in transforming homeowners' visions into reality. We're not just in the business of remodeling. We're in the business of making homes more beautiful, comfortable, and valuable. What sets us apart? Integrity and honesty. Our craftsmen exceed expectations because we care. Lakeside, where every nail, every cut, every detail is a testament testament to our commitment to you.
Is your home, business, or church looking tired, chalky, or in need of curb appeal? Go Rhino. Tired of painting year after year? Go Rhino. Our unique 3M ceramic technology is perfect for brick, stucco, aluminum, steel, color lock masonite, and more. It's backed by our 25-year transferable warranty to not chip, crack, or peel. Great if you're staying, and even better if you're selling. Our ceramic coating allows you to maintain all of your architectural features. The decision to do vinyl will leave your home looking like a plastic moldy box. With Rhino Shield, in 15 years, your home will still have that, wow, it looks like you just got it painted. We've done large condo complexes, parking garages, pole barns, and commercial strip malls. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. Evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
I can see clearly now thanks to the doctors at Ophthalmology Associates. Doctors Greg Birdie, Ranjan Malhotra, Robert Brusati, Andy Royer, and introducing Samuel Berry. You can too. Call 314-966-5000 or check out youridoc.com. That's youridoc.com.
How would you like to make no mortgage payments for 2 months? Are you tired of making minimum payments on high-interest credit cards? Is student loan repayment giving you the blues? Your home equity is at an all-time high. Use that equity to save hundreds every month. Call 314-567-GOLD now and give yourself a payment break. That's 314-567-GOLD. Or visit goldenoaklending.com. NMLS 114937.
I'm really interested to see the results of this poll, I guess as much as I am seeing the actual results of the New Hampshire primary. The poll is, will Nikki Haley win in New Hampshire? Yes or no? That's the Annie Frey YouTube live chat poll. If you'd like to vote or leave a comment, we'll be looking at those here in a minute or two. It is 2:42. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. A new report on the Uvalde massacre came out from the feds today. Phil Holloway's going to join us to talk about that in the first hour. Also, the latest on the Blues and the Cardinals and where you can see the games on television. It's all coming up.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Welcome back. I'm Ryan Recker filling in one more time here for Annie Frey. You can find us online. I'm on Facebook, Ryan Recker Radio, if you want to reach on there. It's always a good time when I get a chance to fill in here on 97.1. Yeah, I was going to talk about this last one, but let's just do this real quick. I got so many stories that I wanted to bring up to you guys and get your take on it. There was this one story about this poor guy. He's on a flight. It's like an hour-and-a-half flight. And he goes to use the bathroom, and the door locks, and it won't unlock. And he's in the bathroom. So he's in, I think this is in India. So he's stuck in this lavatory. And the crew is trying to get this open. The passengers are trying to get this door open. It's just not opening. So they eventually just tell the guy, hey, we've done everything we could. Just put the seat down, sit down, and wait till we land so we can get this door open. Do not panic. I guess maybe that's not the worst place to get stuck on a plane, honestly. Like, I was trying to think of the level of things that would annoy me on a plane. Getting stuck next to someone that, you know, is taking their shoes and socks off and, you know, barefoot or kicking your seat. Or maybe you're sitting next to someone that, quote unquote, has a therapy animal that's just, you know, dropping waste on the ground or whatever it is. Yelling and screaming passenger because they are, you know, lizard people are on the flight. I'm trying to think of the hierarchy of things that I would hate to sit next to on a plane. Getting stuck in a bathroom where you can just sit in your own private space probably isn't the worst.
Yeah, if it smelled really bad, then it would be bad. But
how could it? You flush and it's like, you know, and it's gone. It's not like you're sitting around like a porta-john.
I've walked into a bathroom on an airplane before, and it smelled terrible. So I don't really know the mechanics, but I know for sure that it smelled bad. If you were in there, though, and it smelled okay, it would be a private suite for the flight. So I'm kind of with you on that. You get a little, even though there's not much space compared to other bathrooms, there's a lot more space in a bathroom compared to your seat.
Would it not be worse to be stuck outside of it and then you not be able to use the restroom on a flight?
Oh yeah.
Well, there's more than
you know
one.
what my fear would be.
But
like you're stuck in there and you're like, okay, they try to get you out. They say, just hang in there. We'll get you open. Don't worry. And then you're like, I might as well use it. Then you start using the bathroom and then they break it open.
Oh yeah, like you got to go right when they're starting to bring out the jaws of life.
Guys.
Yep.
Guys, I was going in here.
And there you are, pants
I think
down.
I would do that just to make it feel awkward. Like, nah, I just did it for the lulz.
That guy had a newspaper out and everything. Nobody has newspapers anymore.
So there you are sitting patiently, and then you hear them starting to grind away with their power tools to get the thing open, and then you think, oh, now I'm going to drop my pants. Like, this is the time that surprise.
Man.
Can I bring up this one video game story? Ubisoft is a pretty big video game company, and much like we've seen a revolution when it comes to movies and music, a lot of what we consume online is streamed. So on demand, you find a movie or television show to watch. You're not necessarily going out and buying physical copies of DVDs anymore. Very few people do that. Music, same thing. Spotify's and all these other apps allow you to listen to the music you want. You can basically find anything you want anywhere at any time, and you can listen to that sort of thing. And you don't have to go out and buy a physical CD like you used to. So they've gone to the streaming, and video games are saying that in the future, at least the head of Ubisoft, that you are going to essentially not own your video games. You're going to buy the access to the game, a digital copy or whatever it is, and you're going to be happy with not owning it. And I tend to disagree on this a little bit, but Brad, I know you're a video game player. How do you feel that in the future you're not going to get a physical copy of your games?
Well, I kind of was with you for a while there on Xbox. I would always make sure that I bought the physical copy. I'd have the CD or whatever because it was just something that meant something to me. Well, my Xbox finally has, bid it. It's done. It's over. I can't get it to turn on anymore. But the problem is now, a lot of the new Xboxes don't even have, like, the most expensive model, the Xbox One X, still has a disc drive. But that's like $500 or something like that. And then the Xbox Series 1, it doesn't. The hardware on the inside is almost the same. It just doesn't have it, which means that if I buy that Series Xbox Series S or whatever it is, it won't have the drive, and I just won't be able to play any of the games that I bought a hard copy for, which is the vast majority of my games. And the other side of this is, too, I game on PC, and I get my games through Steam and Epic Games and stuff like that. They're 100% download. I don't even have a disk drive on my gaming computer. I just download them off of Steam, and they're on my computer, but I can't play them. What I don't want to do is I don't want to go to a streaming service where you're basically streaming your game. So like a Netflix for video games where you would just go, okay, I want to play this game and I'm paying this group a certain amount of money, because gaming is so dependent on performance, and then you're at the mercy of your internet speed and you're at the mercy of their equipment, not your own. But it is something that I'm seeing some gaming, like almost streaming from a virtual gaming machine, so you could get your laptop and then stream off of their machine and you don't have to burn up your graphics or whatever.
Well, when you're a pro gamer like Brad, who really gets into it, I get that. And here's the thing that I don't like, because I see the stories of companies that will basically revoke a game, and they'll say, you know what, we're not offering this anymore. And even if you paid for it, they did this with music in some other places. I think Apple did this, or Amazon, but essentially you pay the money for the game, and then the developers say, well, you know what, that game's not available anymore, and you lose access to that game that you paid for. And they say, tough luck.
Or that
like
game
it's
is
just
problematic.
Gone. And that seems to happen, not often, but it happens sometimes. And sometimes, too, you find these video games that are dependent on the internet, meaning that there's some sort of server involved. And when they take that server down, the game's gone forever. You can't play it anymore unless there's some sort of independent hobbyist that puts their own server together and finds a way to around whatever the game would call for, and allows you to play it even further. But then, you pay $50 or $60 for a game that you can't really play anymore. They like to revoke that. And maybe it's just me, but when I was in the 90s, you bought a physical cartridge, you plugged it into your Nintendo, and you had that forever. You didn't have to be dependent on the internet. But it seems like anymore they want so much control over these things that it just takes away from ownership whatsoever, that are we not going to own anything in the future when it comes to digital, like movies, video games? Is it just, are we going to be on a rental basis in the future and just give us a fee to get access to whatever we want? And we're not going to physically own things.
That's the goal. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing about the theory and the New World Order. You will own nothing and like it, or you will own nothing and be happy. We had a guest on, Carol Roth, and she wrote a book about this, and she had a lot to say about it, but it really is, at the end, it's about removing freedoms. And, you know, it's like you're giving up freedoms for convenience or whatever it is.
Is that conspiratorial when you look at that? Because people would look at it and say that's tinfoil hat talk, but I think it is a very strong possibility that's what they're trying to move towards.
It's tinfoil hat talk until it isn't.
I hear is
that's a good T-shirt.
What I hear is two guys going, I think they're going to take away with video games. I'm too worried about it.
Hey, listen, you don't want to aggravate gamers.
I want a physical cartridge. I don't want to have to play on the.
If there will ever be an uprising, that will be it.
What if my megabytes per second isn't fast enough? So I think when you guys are talking about this, though, and you're talking about, you will own nothing, the issue...
then your ears perked
so
up.
then I'm like, wait a second now.
Hold on, I got to tune in.
Because the issue that you guys are talking about then is more about, to me, big corporate and big government controlling these things. To me, this one doesn't really fall in that category. It's more about convenience, and it's more about you choosing to buy this. The marketplace would dictate
Well,
that.
that's always how any of that is packaged.
But it's the marketplace dictating it, though. Because if there was a demand enough for physical cartridges, they'd make those. This isn't really. This is led by the consumer.
No. They have just stopped. I mean, like if you don't,
not because there's not a demand for
it.
I don't believe
start
that.
producing their products without the necessary equipment required to have a physical cartridge. Like you can't, like with the Xbox Series S, you can't get a physical cartridge. They've removed that option.
Series X.
X, you can have it. Series S, no, you can't. But you got to pay more.
Can I give you a couple more examples, Wiggins, that may be more appropriate? So how many times have you heard these car companies that have certain features built in and you have to pay a subscription to unlock the features of a car? Like car companies are starting to go down that route. And they're built in, you bought the car, but they don't give you access to it unless you buy the special monthly package that's available with your car. They've already started to do things like that with, how many times have you heard people argue this with guns as well, to say that in order to prevent unnecessary shootings, they need to put fingerprint readers on guns to make sure you're the absolute owner before you shoot it or something like that. So people do argue this sort of technology that links up to the cloud to authenticate or whatever it is. They put this subscription-based model that would allow for you to what they would call normal upgrades. But it's not really an upgrade. It's just access to something you should have already to begin with. But they're using this as a way to try to make extra money from you. It's like a profit scheme.
Well, I'm not saying you guys aren't bringing up legitimate issues. I'm just saying you guys are nerds.
But we're right.
Maybe.
Yeah. We're right nerds. I'm not even that. I don't even play video games anymore. I just look at this and it just intrigues me that this industry is going down the same route and how many others will be doing the same.
Yeah, it's very true that the owning media thing. I know a lot of people who are purists who still will buy everything that they really like on DVD. I got to respect that. People who have full library walls of movies. Yeah.
Your Nintendo cartridges was a flex when you were a kid.
And your CD, your whatever it's called, the little container things that you'd have that hold 300 glass cases.
And then how many CD players were
cases.
Like a 7-deck CD player on your boom box or whatever? That was a flex too.
Yeah, the big carousel comes out rotating. Wasn't that the day? Or the cars would have them a 6 CD changer in your car. How cool is that? You can just press a button and it flips it over to Stone Temple Pilots whenever you wanted it.
Exactly.
One other AI story, and this is something Axios reported it. They had an interview with Sam Altman, and they were talking about artificial intelligence and really the way it's going. And it said, Altman says ChatGPT will have to evolve in uncomfortable ways. Here's the thing that when AI first came out and the way that it was developing, I was kind of naive to think that it wasn't going to develop as fast as it has. But the thing that shocks me every time I read something new about AI is that it is developing at an exponential rate much faster than I thought it ever would. That before I thought, no, this Terminator scenario where the supernet gets together and destroys the world would never happen, where my confidence of that has just dropped and plummeted, where I think that at this point we are going to be in a Terminator situation in the future. I'm starting to get nervous about AI. Are you guys nervous at all?
Not particularly yet. I can see the problems, but I'm glad though that people continue to point out the problems, because as long as we keep talking about them, I think there will be enough focus on them that they won't become necessarily a huge issue.
It scares me still. I mean, before I was more like, this is kind of a cool tool to play around with. But the more I see behind the scenes of what some of these companies are able to do with the technology that they have and how fast they're able to get it out to the public, it really shocks me.
Results of the poll today: will Nikki Haley win in New Hampshire? It is an overwhelming no. 88% of people say she will not win in New Hampshire, while 12% say yes, she will. So there you go.
Good poll. Good show. Guys, I always appreciate it. Thanks for letting me fill in, making it so easy for me.
It's
I'm
great.
Ryan
Thanks,
Recker.
Ryan.
On Facebook, Ryan Recker Radio, if you want to find me on there. And Mark Reardon coming up in just a few minutes on 97.1 FM Talk.
Pick out the jams, pick up the soul, pour another glass of that rock and roll, turn up the band, find the hole, gonna lose control tonight. What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
When it comes time to get your mortgage taken care of, if you're looking to buy a home, have you reached out to Stewie at Stewart's American Mortgage? I want to encourage you to do that. I am a 2-time customer of Stewie and Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan. And when I went to Stewie, I had him explain to me exactly how the Bagel Loan works. And the idea that you don't pay closing costs, that's legitimate. He doesn't roll those into the loan. You don't pay him later or something like that. They're not there. Stewie takes care of you. He makes sure that when you go to get your mortgage done with him, that you understand every detail, and he does have the best deal in the game. He does business directly with his clients. It is a small operation, but he works his tail off to make sure that your mortgage or your mortgage refinance with the Bagel Loan or without the Bagel Loan, depending on your scenario,